A marriage between an ordinary peasant woman and a prince. People call it love that goes beyond the status of the couple. But in fact, a royal wedding cannot be based on love alone. It has many components that influence the final outcome. There were 4 reasons why a simple girl named Mirana, who came from the village, became a real princess. Firstly, the main character was an incredibly beautiful girl. This was clear right from her childhood. Mirana was rightfully called the most beautiful girl in the empire, with silky, long strands of silver hair, expressive eyes, chiseled facial features. Secondly, the heroine's closest friend was the daughter of the Marquis of Belchate himself. The girl's name was Jaina. Sweet Jaina loved Mirana with great dedication, loved her more than any other friend ever could. The daughter of the Marquis supported her friend financially, took the girl to high society, providing her with everything she needed. At all meetings with the nobility, she talked about her beloved friend. On a drinking binge, Mirana now owns her own clinic and is Jaina's pride. Thirdly, Mirana was a doctor and herbalist, so she quickly gained popularity and a good reputation among local residents who came to her clinic. She was called a white angel. The prince of the empire became interested in the rapidly spreading rumors about a miracle girl, the white angel of the empire, which sounds wonderful. And after several personal meetings with the beautiful young Mirana, the young people declared themselves a couple. And the 4th reason was betrayal. The white angel spoke about the betrayal of the family of the Marquis of Belchat. Jaina's father planned to commit high treason. Mirana's friend told about it in confidence. And for this reason, Jaina tried to poison the white angel. The heroine testified to reveal the betrayal of the empire of the Marquis of Belchat. The price Jaina's father had to pay for his betrayal and rebellion against the royal family was equal to the lives of everyone in his family. After the massacre, young Mirana was rewarded for her loyalty and protection of her kingdom. She married the prince. An underground damp and cold dungeon. A loaf of bread flies at the head of an ex-girlfriend with contempt. The guard orders the vile rat to eat. Exhausted and scared, Jaina picks up the bread from the floor in tears and begins to eat it. How did it all turn out this way? Before the girl's eyes was her father in the main square. He was accused of treason against the empire, and his daughter was accused of attempting to kill the prince's chosen one. The poor girl screamed over the roar of the crowd that her family did nothing to stop the execution immediately. But the mechanism was launched right before the girl's eyes. The guillotine blade cut off her father's head. The world collapsed. Everything inside broke off along with her dad's last breath. The unbearably painful memories were interrupted by the thin voice of a white angel. She asked what Jaina was doing here and if she was okay. The former friend immediately raised her weakened body. All her rage and pain poured out into a single question: how dare this creature come here? The imprisoned girl was immediately pierced by a steel blade, and Jaina collapsed in surprise on the floor of her prison cell. In front of her, behind the iron bars, stood Cassel, Jaina's former betrothed. Even he had contempt for the criminal. Who was she to threaten the princess? Mirana carefully touched the young man's hand and asked Cassel to stay alone with Jaina for a couple of minutes. The guy roared, because this was the daughter of a traitor who tried to poison Mirana. The white angel looked at Cassel with a sensual, reverent gaze. If not now, then Mirana would not have another opportunity to talk to her ex-friend. Cassel must understand Mirana's feelings. They were such friends. They lived under the same roof. They simply had to talk to her. The formidable defender with the sword immediately changed his face. He could not object to the girl when she looked at him like that. Cassel will wait outside. The patron told his princess to be extremely careful with this scoundrel. She could be dangerous for her. The white angel towered over the tortured, dirty prisoner behind bars, watching her with interest. Jaina raised her eyes to her sworn friend. Why did this lying fool suddenly decide to come? Something else she wanted to say. Mirana chuckled maliciously. Not at all. It's just that the girl enjoys watching her friend in this barn up close, like cattle before slaughter. Jaina's fists clenched. Rotten bastard. The princess also decided to show off her tiara with precious stones. Mirana clarified whether the crown that she deserved suits her in her opinion. The tiara suited her perfectly. Initially, it was enough for Mirana to be the most beautiful lady in the empire, but thanks to her stupid and open girlfriend, her position enviably improved. A vile, cowardly rat, Jaina and her father took her under their wing, cared for her like a member of their family. How could she kill the Marquis who doted on her? The white angel burst out laughing. It's a pity, but she hated this rich fool from the very beginning, just like her father. Jaina cared about the white-haired girl because she felt sorry for her. She didn't think that her sympathy seemed like ridicule at times. The ex-friend was pierced by a dull pain. She never felt flimsy pity for Mirana. She was always a light for her. The girl was beaming. Jaina immediately fell in love with her and wanted to put the whole world at her feet. She wanted to make her happy. Jaina also believed this scoundrel when she lost her friends and her young lover. She was sure that she would be there no matter what. Did Mirana really have a reason to do this? She would have become a princess anyway. Why kill her father? The white angel sincerely patted her big eyes. Of course, she would have become a princess in any case, but then she would not be happy with the result. Mirana dreamed of seeing how pitiful her sworn friend would be, because she hated her with all her soul from their first meeting. Young Jaina stood in shackles in front of a roaring crowd of the kingdom's inhabitants, people demanding her blood and torture. The traitor must die. Mirana watched this bacchanalia with lust. Jaina Belchate's sentence will be carried out immediately. The friend took her pendant in her hands. She was ready for death and was no longer afraid. As soon as Jaina died, everything would change. Before his death, a caring father gave his beloved daughter a magic pendant. Then Jaina did not yet understand that terrible times were coming. But the Marquis of Belchat knew everything even then, and wanted to protect his only daughter with the help of this precious amulet. Then, on the day of the execution of the best father in the whole world, Jaina prayed for only one thing: to rewind time in order to fix everything and save him. Out of nowhere, a voice was heard. The stone on the girl's neck began to shine. It was a dragon shard, and it would fulfill her wish. The execution of Jaina Belchate will begin right now. You need to think wisely, since the desire to cancel will no longer be possible. A deep sigh, tears running down her cheeks, the blade of the guillotine above her head. That's right. The girl's desire was to turn back time. The cold and merciless blade of the guillotine swept down. The execution of the young Marquis of Belchat took place. The dragon fragment fulfilled the wish of the owners of the amulet. Literally, a second later, Jaina was already in her cozy room in their family estate. The maid entered her room apologetically. Miss Belchate plans to spend the whole day in bed today. The doctor said that Jaina was healthy. Jaina's personal maid was called Anna. She did not understand why her mistress behaved the way she did, and asked her to explain. This seemingly fragile and sweet girl grew up like an assassin in the slums. She died after a failed mission, and Jaina took her in. Since then, the devoted Anna did everything for her savior. The maid sincerely loved Jaina and respected her immensely. Anna was faithful to the Lord to the end. She, like a wild animal, defended her patroness when the royal guards came for her. Anna blocked the guardsman's path and took out her blade. The assassin would defend his master until his last breath. This fight was initially unequal. There were many more guards, and everyone had just finished combat training, but Anna was more courageous than all of them. The blade of the blade slid across the maid's palm. Anna dropped the blade from her bloody hand and growled after the guard so that he would not approach Jaina. But the young man was inexorable. As a vile traitor only dared to commit a crime against the princess, she must die right now. The vile executor of the princess's will loomed menacingly over the marquise and thrust the blade of his blade forward. In 1 second, like a wild panther, faithful Anna rushed towards her patroness and protected her from death. The blade pierced her through. This was another blow that split her soul into pieces, and one of these parts of the soul died along with Anna. Jaina also loved her Anna immensely, and a tearing feeling of dull pain burned inside her. And now her beloved Anna stands in front of her, safe and sound, and doesn't even suspect anything. The Marquise looked at the maid with special warmth. How good it is that she has her beautiful Anna. The modest maid was not used to such warmth and open feelings. Her eyes widened. She was surprised. The heartbreaking memories faded into the background. Jaina was immensely glad to see her Anna alive, and began to thank her and kiss her. The young daughter of the Marquis of Belchat assured the maid that from today on she will follow her schedule, so that Anna does not worry. The young housewife will look at something and immediately return. Anna asked the lady to change her dress, but it was too late. In the basement of their family estate, there was a secret vault. The place was magical. Only Belchat could get there. The dragon fragment had to be there. The girl was sure of it and hurried to make sure. Jaina quickly found a magical necklace among the other artifacts. It was not difficult. The decoration was in plain sight. However, the dragonstone was transparent, not gold, giving all its magical power to the heir of Belchate. Once upon a time, when the Belchate domain was still a kingdom, the first king saved a dragon in trouble. As his gratitude, the majestic dragon gave the savior his heart. If the king's descendants ever need help, let them call on the dragon. He will fulfill one of his wishes. The precious stone, better known as the dragon's heart, was passed down from generation to generation of the Belchate family. The great and powerful dragon kept his word, fulfilled the desire of a descendant of the family, and saved her from certain death. Young Belchate was caught by her personal maid. She was glad that Jaina was energetic again. But where did she run away in only her pajamas? The maid had already searched her mistress. Meanwhile, Jaina was wondering what year she was in and how old she was. Jaina turned 18, which means she will meet that creature Mirana this year. We need to make sure that the scoundrel doesn't ruin the life of her father and the girl herself. It won't be possible to fix everything a second time. By the way, a letter was sent to the young Marquise when she was bedridden. The letter was from her father. When Jaina turned 10, her mother became a doctor, and her father pulled away from her. The baby felt completely unnecessary. The Marquis immersed himself in his work, forgetting about his daughter, only occasionally sending her letters. And when Mirana arrived, he was always with her, so the girl thought that he didn't love her. Although in fact, it turned out that her father loves her more than anything in the world, as the girl did not understand this before. The letter said that the Marquis was at a friend's house on the southern coast. He asked the father to take his daughter to the capital. They would be there in 5 days. The Marquis asked to receive Mirana well, then the journey took 7 days instead of 5. This vile, lying, rotten fool wanted to destroy the life of the Belchate family, destroy her and her father. Well, Jaina will destroy her. Unsuspecting at the time, Jaina's father good-naturedly showed Mirana around the local area. They were almost there. Opposite the father of the main character sat his death with gray curls, which will deprive the entire family of life. The maid told the young miss that His Highness would soon arrive home with their guest. Jaina was ready for this. The beautiful and charming young Marchioness of Belchat shone in her inky dress. It was immediately clear that the day was special for her. This stately, brave, noble, and honest Marquis of Belchat, he brought up these qualities in his daughter. The young Marquise threw her arms around her father's neck. She was glad that nothing bad happened to him. Belchati did not expect such an impulse, but he was also glad for his daughter. And who is this modest miss who is standing next to the Marquis of Belchat? Jaina cast a significant glance at the scoundrel. Mirana immediately babbled sweetly that her name is Mirana Vito, so that's who she is. Jaina is extremely pleased to meet her. After all, she was waiting impatiently for Mirana. Jaina smiled eloquently to ruin her life. Everything is the same as in their first meeting in a past life. The same feignedly frightened look, the same imaginary timidity. And her father still didn't notice anything. He wanted so much to help the poor child. He wanted so much to protect her. Jaina knew well the history that led to Mirana's arrival at their estate. The father called the scoundrel the only daughter of Baron Vito, who saved the life of the Marquis during the war. After the Baron saved the Marquis, they became friends. But the Baron recently died and asked in a letter to take care of his daughter. In his letter, the Marquis once again reminded his daughter of the importance for him of the will of his long-time deceased comrade. The noble Belchate, in memory of his friend, could not refuse and brought his daughter to his mansion. The young miss hugged the lying reptile. She was so sorry for her father. The Marquis asked his daughter to help the guest get comfortable in their house. With great joy, she had already become a sister to Jaina. Belchate was very glad that the girls got along so quickly. It would be great if young Miss Vito would also see him as a father. This is too great an honor for a simpleton from the village. She doesn't know what to say to such generosity. Mirana chirped that she was incredibly grateful for everything to the Marquis and did not know how she could repay such a debt. Let the girl not get it into her head. Everyone here is simply making sure she is comfortable, and Jaina herself will take care of repaying the debt. The Marquise offered to show the guests their family mansion Belchat, give a tour, and show her room. 2 charming girls walked along a long, majestic corridor with expensive decorations. At the end of the corridor, 2 maids opened the bedroom doors for the young ladies, and here was Mirana's new bedroom. Miss Belchate hospitably asked Mirana how her room was. The girl said that she could not live in this room. The young Marquise told her not to worry about the burden. Everyone tried very hard for her. But that wasn't the problem at all. Mirana just hates the color pink and therefore wants another room. Indignation hung on the faces of the maids. As Jaina had planned, they became the first witnesses to the true nature of the scoundrel. Well, the game according to the rules of the young Marquise has begun. It will be long and painful, but this time not for herself. The girl didn't know the reasons, but the pink color was disgusting for Marana. She couldn't stand it. The headmaid and the butler felt the first notes of total ingratitude, vileness, and selfishness in their guest. Jaina decided to finish off this scene. She apologized for being so careless. She didn't know that Marana wouldn't like it. The maids froze in shock. Why was the Marquise apologizing? Now the servants were on her side, but in the past, Jaina had not been in step with the staff, and when the guards came for her, they stood aside. This time, everything will be different. The staff will be on the side of the young Marquise. You need to be prepared in all directions. While her new room has not been prepared for the guest, Mirana can safely use this one. Jaina turned her attention to Vito's personal maid. Mirana introduced her as Rona and told her to say hello. Even her maid did not cause any positive impressions, if you remove the tinsel that usually obscured Miran's eyes. Rona was a match for her mistress, except that the maid was truly capable and skillful. Those who are close in spirit usually stay close, and these snakes also found each other in this bright world. The young Marquise called Rona capable. She hoped that the maid would take good care of Mirana. The lying guest's personal maid brought fresh tea. Miss Vito thanked her. Young Belchot praised the drink for its rich taste. Rona, according to Mirana, was an expert in brewing herbs and tea. Jaina thanked the gloomy maid. Now she can drink delicious tea whenever she wants. Next time she will treat Mirana. The Marquise carefully studied every gesture of these two. The girls looked at each other endlessly. The daughter of her father's friend noticed that the Marquise drank her tea, after which Jaina suggested taking a walk around the mansion. The thoroughly poisonous guest was glad that Jaina liked her tea. She really hopes that they can become friends. Left alone with the faithful Anna, the Marquise asked how she liked her. Anna replied that she was looking at her mistress with dissatisfaction. Young Miss Belchate should avoid the stranger. There is clearly something wrong with her, and she is not very well-intentioned. The guest looks like a person who could betray her mistress. You shouldn't trust her. Anna's intuition is simply amazing. Then the Marquise did not hear anyone, and so wanted to believe that a lady with such an angelic face could not keep anything dark inside herself. She was a fool. If only Jaina had listened to her faithful maid then, Anna would be watching over this lady and ran her thumb across her throat. Jaina said that she shouldn't do this. If she hurts Mirana for no reason, then Jaina will already be in trouble. Miss Belchate wanted this piece of shit to suffer a lot more and not get off so easily, so they would take out Rona as per their plan. There is another person in this story who is no less cruel and rotten. Ron's maid was incredibly devoted to the white-haired creature, so she was ready to do anything for her. How then did this reptile bite into Anna's death? She mocked her body, and the fact that her life was so pitifully cut short. And in order to deprive the scoundrel of his main performer, it was necessary to cut this rope while there was such an opportunity. Miss Anna was no less faithful to her patron than Rona. She did not yet know what she was helping her with, but the assassin would be with his mistress to the end. It's time to start the next stage of your plan. The girls have a lot of things to do and tasks ahead. Time is running out. Meanwhile, in the Belchate mansion, Miss Vito's preparation for high society was in full swing. Although not very successfully, Mirana turned out to be not a particularly capable student. The teacher could not express in words how disappointed she was. Nothing could be done here. An absolutely stubborn case. The maids were giggling behind the doors of the hall. Jaina noticed that the etiquette teacher named Mariana seemed very angry. And all because Mirana really was nothing, only a pleasant appearance, and then a continuous hopeless emptiness. In the past, Mirana's teacher was Miss Brenda. She was very calm and patient, thinking that in front of her was a frightened child, which, of course, this scoundrel was not. Over time, the rest of the capital's residents fell in love with the visiting village girl because she was so pure and bright. Mirana was criticized for her lax etiquette, but as her influence in society increased, her manner of greeting people became popular. It's very nice to hear Miss Mariana reprimand this snake. Jaina knocked on the door and said that she had brought snacks. The young Marquise straightened her back and majestically floated into the hall, dazzling with her demeanor. The girl introduced herself as Jaina Belchot and bowed in a curtsy. Miss Mariana watched her with interest. Jaina bowed her head in front of the teacher. It was a great honor to meet such a respected person. What a worthy greeting from the young miss. The teacher curtsied and introduced herself as Letta Mariana. The teacher was delighted with the young girl's manners. She always demonstrates herself very well. Jaina modestly said that the miss flatters her. The young marquise allowed herself to take care of the teacher. Various wonderful dishes were displayed on the table. Jaina noticed that Miss Mariana had been here since the morning, and she was probably tired and hungry. Miss Mariana thanked the girl for her concern, but she didn't think she could eat right now. She decided to leave and asked not to see her off. The good-natured Belchate invited Vito to eat together, because Mirana had missed breakfast, and the sandwiches were very tasty. Jaina might have been fooled by that face back then, since the girl remained objectively beautiful. Mirana chirped that she was ashamed she missed so much because her mother died too early, and her father did not teach this. But the envious Trash herself said that she perceived Jaina's sympathy as a mockery, and as soon as she needed something, she immediately became so pitiful, tearful, how weak and empty she was. The Baron was a good man and used his means to help those around him. What was so important about etiquette compared to that? Mirana was already wonderful. If she was raised by such a wonderful person, the reptile was clearly obscured. Vito immediately blurted out that she wanted a new etiquette teacher. She clearly couldn't cope with this, of course. No other was possible. Jaina specifically chose Miss Mariana. Miss Vito probably knows Princess Hylas, the eldest daughter of Duke Klein, or rather, she is the bride of the second prince who will be crowned in the future. So she was taught by Miss Mariana, if we exclude all surprises, then she will become the next empress. How the eyes of the vile liar immediately sparkled. It is not surprising that the fake immediately caught fire. It is never enough for her. Even if she hopes for anything, Jaina cannot wait for her dreams to be destroyed. Speaking of which, what is the second crown prince like? She has admired the royal family for a long time. The second prince is a very handsome young man and has significant support among the nobility, who will also fall for your outer beauty without ever learning about the true ugliness of the soul. Jaina and the prince exchanged only greetings. They had not yet had a private dialogue. During the upcoming holiday, Mirana will be able to meet the royal family if she attends a ball at the palace. Jaina nodded approvingly. She would make her a beauty, and they would go to the ball together. Mirana would be the center of attention. Mirana faintly rushed to hug the main character. Meeting her was the best thing in her life. She said so that time too. By the way, if the second prince is there, does this mean that the first will also appear there? And why is it not the first prince who will become emperor? According to the rules, the royal firstborn is always first in line to inherit the imperial power. But the health of the first prince is a precarious thing. Jaina did not have time to finish. Their dialogue was interrupted. The marquise's personal maid knocked on the door and came in, announcing that there was a serious problem. The two young girls looked at each other. What else happened? The current problem was Ron's maid. In the corridor of the Belchite family estate, maids crowded together. Rona squealed that the head maid was wrong. She did nothing. The head of staff furiously roared for Rona to stop lying. She saw with her own eyes how she was stealing her mistress's thing. Why is no one here listening to her? Rona is not a thief. This is a false accusation, and they will regret it. Rona screamed that she didn't do it. It was actually the maid with green hair who told her to do it. Another maid replied that she should be ashamed of blaming others. She herself stole and blamed another person. The nasty servant was furious. She was driven into a corner, and she couldn't even fight back. A frightened Mirana had already run into the hall, of course. She was worried she would hardly have found such a devoted and such a rotten performer. Miss Vito asked what happened, why the head of staff was yelling at her personal maid. What right do they all have to attack an innocent person like this in a crowd? The head of staff listened silently. Mirana was outraged by this behavior, this hospitality. This was how they were greeted. The Marquis ordered to take care of them in general. The head maid said that on the way to the madam's room, she saw this maid. Rona stole madam's watch. Out of fear of being caught, Ron dropped and broke the lady's expensive watch, and it was the fault of the head of staff that she did not take care of it. Mirana crossed her arms in front of her. Her Rona would never have done this. Without her order for sure, it was probably another lady. The woman was offended by Mirana's question. She claimed that the head of staff was blind or inattentive. Mirana didn't mean this. Ron needs to listen too. They were all probably wrong about her. After all, her maid had already said that the lady with green hair forced her to do this. It was that maid who gave Rona the key and ordered her to take this expensive watch from her mistress's desk. The maid with green hair replied that she always helped this impudent person in any way she could, and she blames her for everything. No, it's the insidious bastard with green hair who accuses her, but the real bastard was the pathetic servant of the main villain of the plot. And no one present had any idea who they were actually in contact with. Before them were two murderers, and the maids were just their prey. Jaina told both maids to stop. As the second lady is called, the maid called herself Emily. The young marquise remembered Emily. She came to their family estate 3 years ago. She is very envious, greedy, a wonderful situation. Personal maids climbed the career ladder very quickly. Emily knew this very well and was looking for opportunities. But however, the marquise already had the beautiful and devoted Anna in her personal service, so there was no place for her here, and the father did not remarry. Missing Jaina's mother, the role of the marquise's servant was therefore unavailable. Everyone was ordered to treat the newly arrived guest as a true daughter of the marquis, so in Marana, Emily saw a personal opportunity for herself. This is her key to success, being in personal service. Emily will quickly reach the top. Emily was already looking forward to her new status, new opportunities, until her ambitions were cut short by the presence of Rona. So the maid already had a reason to hate this upstart. In addition, the young marquise added that Rona was doing very well and could well become the next head of staff. This became the catalyst for the ambitious maid with green hair. This role should go to her. Does Emily know why the mistress's rooms are always closed? There used to be a worker named Tom in the mansion. He stole something from there. The impudent man had his hands cut off. And if you give Emily, angry and blinded by her own interests, bait, she will immediately swallow it. The Marchioness asked her personal maid to tell her version of events. Rona nodded, displeased. Today, Emily brought Rona up to date, and then she gave this key to the mistress's room and ordered her to bring the watch from there. Emily said that this was an order from the head of staff, but she herself had no time, so let the new girl help her a little. Emily yelled at her to stop lying immediately. All the maids could confirm that she had not left the mansion today. The head of personnel told her subordinate to calm down with a hand gesture. They should listen to both versions. The green-haired maid began to wipe away tears of resentment. She was falsely accused. She was guilty of nothing except excessive kindness. One of the ponytailed maids said she saw Rona prowling around Miss Jaina's room. Could this mean that Marana's personal maid took the keys to her mistress's room from there? Marana immediately put on a pitiful look and tearfully rushed to Jaina because she believes Rona. Her personal maid would never do this. The marquise must believe it. The head of staff will no longer waste time because of Marana's confidence. The previous thief lost his hands. The head maid would not want Rona to have to experience this. She will solve everything quickly. But there's nothing you can do about it. The rules of this house are inviolable, and the girl had to be left without hands, and not just without a job. Marana was furious. This couldn't happen. She would immediately go to the marquis. He would definitely take her side. The head of the family dynasty gathered the council and asked the head of staff what she thought about today's incident. The maid bowed her head in front of the marquise. She had the opportunity to watch Emily for 3 years. The girl is greedy only for work. Emily wouldn't blame others for her own mistakes like Ron's maid did. Marana immediately blurted out that Rona would not steal. But the watch of the lady, his beloved wife, who was no longer with him, was involved, so her father did not even listen to her. The head of the maids confirmed that she personally saw Rona take the watch, then let her send her out today. She no longer belongs in the Belkit mansion. The marquis was calm and unshakable. This would not be tolerated on the Belchot estate, and the girl got off softly. The bastard immediately used her tears. People always reacted to them, and she skillfully used this. However, from now on, the tears of this thoroughly rotten rubbish will no longer mean anything. Now everyone will know what this rubbish really is. Mirana begged not to fire her maid. Where else could she find the same vile, like-minded person? But her father did not react properly to Mirana's acting. How great it is to look at the world with a sober look. However, the girl was shocked by how this was so, and after her tears, everyone was always ready to lay the world at her feet. There was a festival of pleasant feelings in Jaina's soul. Everything was going just fine. A start had been made. Here, Miss Belchate stepped in. She asked not to judge Rona harshly, because in fact she had not stolen anything. Here was her mother's watch. The watch of his late wife, precious to his heart, was smashed to pieces. The answer was unequivocal. The Marquis cannot blame Jaina for protecting Marana and her interests, but there is nothing he can do. The decision has already been announced. Both girls were free. The young Marquise asked not to blame her father. He was a hostage to his own position. But what will happen to Rona when she gets outside? The maid will just go home to the Southern Valley. But a maid is like family to her. Mirana doesn't want her to leave for the Southern Valley like that. Jaina then offered to find a suitable home for Rona in the capital so that Rona could stay there. Mirana beamed. The Marchioness can really do this, and when her father moves away a little, they will ask to return Rona to the mansion. The girl thanked Jaina for her help, but in reality, the Marquise was grateful to her. Her accomplice would never return to her mansion. Miss Vito even feels benefit and convenience towards Rona, so the wound is not so deep. And the white-haired trash herself will soon get bogged down in social life and forget about her dirty performer. The new and wonderful mansion, in which Rona will now work hard, will be visited by several robbers. And the maid, who became involved in so many deaths, mocking Anna's corpse, goes to feed the worms. Mirana was in a hurry to tell the good news to her maid. She is like family to her. The game has begun, creature. The main character wants the white-haired, vicious scoundrel to really feel this moment, what it is like when you lose your loved ones. Miss Vito created a whole drama in front of the rest of the inhabitants of the Belchide estate. What a terrible loss. The maids decided to treat Mirana kinder, because she was so sad. As expected, she will find benefits and positive aspects for her in any situation. Jaina handed the former maid a package containing money until Rona found a home and settled in. Rona thanked our girl for the money. Mirana beamed. What luck, what a good-natured Marquise. Jaina moved away from the two vipers. Rona said that Jaina is a real fool, such a gesture on her part. Her owner knows what to do with her. Mirana called the young Marquise a real gift. She is so easy to manipulate and lead by the nose. The fool gave Rona a lot of money, and this is just the beginning. Young Belchat was so glad that in her past life she managed to learn the Laurel language. These parasites always spoke in it. If these snakes spoke this dialect only among themselves, it would not matter, but they spoke this way to Jaina, mocking her in this way. One day, the white spawn of hell gave our heroine a beautiful napkin with embroidery, which she made with her own hands. Jaina was delighted because it said Dear Jaina according to Mirana, but in fact, the napkin was for stupid Jaina. Then the girl began to suspect these two. Anna checked the embroidery and confirmed the mistress's guesses. Then Jaina began to study their language. She manipulated, mocked, humiliated, used. From now on, everything will be exactly the opposite for Mirana. The first move has been made. This game will be long and hard, but definitely worth all the effort. The head of staff said that her mother's expensive watch would be repaired by an experienced repairman. The maid was interrupted by the inspired Mirana. They don't have time for this at all. They need to go quickly. The girls must quickly find a home for Rona, so right now they need to go to the butler. Jaina clarified what language the girls spoke all the time. It was not the royal dialect. It was the destroyed language of the Kingdom of Lorelia. The Southern Valley was part of it. She and Rona must have known each other for a long time. The young Marquise asked what these two snakes were talking about in a foreign language. Mirana assured that it was all sorts of nonsense. By the way, Rona also thanked Jaina for such generosity. This is a very large sum for a maid. Typical Mirana. There is not a single word of truth in her speech. How could the Marquise not see this before? What a lying reptile. Two young girls very quickly found the room of the butler of the Belchade family and knocked on his door. The man did not keep the young ladies waiting long and immediately opened the door for them, which is how a butler can help beautiful ladies. The Marquise immediately entered his room and confidently said that she wanted the butler to find a house in the capital for one woman. The butler clapped his hands with affection as to why his lady needed a house. Jaina replied that this was not at all what he thought. The girl was just helping Mirana. The stately servant nodded his head. He will find the house he needs. His Marquise cares so much about Miss Vito. Of course, since Mirana is like a sister to Jaina, the young Marquise began to study the documents for the houses. One of the options was in the center of the capital. The other was where you would never meet a neighbor. The girl exhaled tiredly. She needed a break from Mirana, and a maid called out to her in the corridor. Not a moment of peace. The girl needs more peace and quiet to carry out her plan. The out-of-breath maid informed the young Marquise that Mr. Kama had already arrived at the Belchate residence. The young girl seemed to be pierced by lightning. Mr. Kama, Kaisel is here. He is still her fiancé. It was on this day that everything was supposed to happen. How could she forget about such a painful moment in her life? Here the thoughts of the main character were interrupted by the annoying Mirana. What kind of prince is Kama? The lady announced that this is her fiancé. Last time, this creature was babbling about how magnificent her fiancé should be, and then she took Jaina's prince away. Cassel is the heir to the Duchy of Kama and will be knighted next year. Mirana begged the young marquise to introduce her to the crown prince. The girl simply had to come out and greet him. The naive Jaina then gladly introduced her friend to her future chosen one, Miran from the barony of Vito. The white-haired scoundrel immediately clung to the embarrassed prince. Mirana said that the young heir Kam was simply wonderful, and it was the day when Cassel and Mirana met. During the execution of her father, Jaina lost her soul, and on this day, she lost her heart. The naive prince was fascinated by the bright, beautiful girl at first sight. Mirana did her best. Cassel immediately fell in love with this hellish spawn and began to persistently beg her to become his chosen one. The young man decided to confirm his intentions. The Crown Duke of Kama decided to give Mirana his knightly oath. Meanwhile, poisonous rumors that the Duke of Cassel had abandoned the young marquise quickly spread throughout the kingdom. Crown Prince Kama later wrote a letter to the Marquis of Belchate confirming these rumors and refusing to marry Jaina. This year, the white-haired scoundrel became a real flower of society, while the young marquise was fading. Jaina was jealous that Mirana was being listened to, that she was gathering attention around herself. The vile reptile even started rumors that she was cruelly treated in the family nest. In general, the visiting lady did everything so that the focus of attention was on her all the time and did not spare any new false rumors for this. No one even wanted to listen to the poor young marquise. No one cared that this scoundrel had ruined her life. But this time, everything would be different. So her future husband, the crown prince of the Kamadushi, will betray the young marquise in any case. But this time, all the inhabitants of the kingdom will learn that Kazel is an insignificant traitor, and the simpleton from the village is a vicious and deceitful girl whom the Belchate family warmed under their wing. Mirana cut short her pleasant thoughts about the possible outcome. She decided to take her leave and not interfere with the marquise and her fiancé. There was a question on Jaina's face if the girl didn't want to go with her to meet Prince Cassel. But Mirana insisted that the girl should spend time with her fiancé and there would be no place for her there. Is it possible that Mirana also returned to the past, like the main character? But then she would definitely have saved Rona. But something clearly went wrong. We need to find out what exactly Jaina told her maid to tell Cassel that she was sick and would not come out to see him. A familiar male voice was heard behind the girl, but the young marquise looked completely healthy. Why was she refusing to meet her chosen one? A whole month had passed since the last meeting of the young people. Did Jaina really not miss the Duke at all? In fact, our main character was very fond of young Cassel. He was the heir to the Duchy of Kama. A young man with a charming appearance was distinguished by a special talent in fencing he had no equal. Therefore, there were a lot of society ladies whom Cassel conquered with his data. The Duke was always pursued by fans with their secret notes and desires. The reason why the young crown prince climbed into our girl's heart was Cassel's radiant smile. As children, they played hide-and-seek with the young heir to the Kama Duchy. When he found Jaina in the bushes, he was incredibly happy and gave her a beaming smile. Jaina's mother and Duchess Kama were close friends and were on good terms, so the young people spent their entire childhood together. Her dear Cassel was talking something about knightly tournaments, but the girl didn't hear him. She was trying to figure out how such a guy could become such a ruthless traitor with just a click. No matter how concerned Cassel would now pretend, the prince would still betray her in the most inhumane way. But this time, you need to turn the betrayal in your direction and be a victim. Cassel will instantly cross out a lifelong true friendship and become its executioner for the sake of a lying scoundrel. The girl will never forget that despicable look when they decided to execute her, so Jaina will not lose her resolve. The girl began to shake. She did not raise her eyes to her childhood friend. The prince began to worry about her. Apparently, she really got sick. Then the heir had better not disturb her and leave the mansion. The young marquise went out into the street to accompany Cassel to his carriage. She wanted to see him off quickly. Before his departure, the groom asked her to make a scarf for a knightly tournament between students. The heroine said that the prince could win without it, so Jaina would not waste time on the scarf. The groom was upset. His chosen one always gave him scarves with her own embroidery. Cassel made sad puppy eyes. He thought that with a scarf it would be much easier to do this. Jaina rolled her eyes. She would ask Anna to have the maid make one napkin. The couple was called out from behind by a white-haired evil. Miranda walked along the path of a beautiful garden towards the estate. Cassell was pierced by lightning of feelings. Jaina had guests besides himself. Who was this lady? As expected, the young crown prince was smitten at first sight by the beauty of Mirana Vito. Herr Kama has never seen this young lady before. This is probably the Marquise's new friend. The clouds began to gather. Cassell was the first traitor who humiliated her at the behest of Mirana. It was this bright and noble young man, who was taught honor and dignity from childhood, who became a vile bastard. The main character was no longer worried about their union. Her heart surprisingly did not hurt at all. I can't even believe that in the past everything turned out exactly like this. How much they went through together. In a past life, the naive Jaina dedicated an entire letter to Cassell about her new friend Mirana, calling her a beauty and a ray of light. Cassell immediately introduced himself as the heir to the dynasty of the Duchy of Kama. He was pleased to meet Miss Vito. Mirana muttered her name and said that the Marquis of Belchout cares about her. She owes Jaina's family a lot. Is the young man really returning to his dukedom so soon? Cassell nodded and removed the petal from Jaina's hair. The Marquise froze awkwardly. She had already forgotten what her fiancé's touch was, but inside, everything was still different. Mirana must have disturbed the young couple. She will not bother them. She was pleased to meet you. The prince had to leave. Cassell said goodbye to the Marquise. Mirana just retreated. What was going on here? This heartbreaker had been following Cassell for weeks, arranging their meetings, sticking at every step. And Prince Kama is somehow not inspired, does not follow the girl with his eyes. Something is clearly wrong. Jaina watched as her fiancé's carriage departed. Apparently, there were differences in the events of the past and present. The main character's personal maid asked if her mistress was all right. She looked puzzled. Anna suggested cleaning everything up here. The young Marquise had already eaten all the cookies. The main character was eating away her stress. The Marquise should stop because there are only a couple of cakes left. Jaina analyzed and recalled the events of the past. Everything must be carefully thought through. In the past, the girls were talking in Mirana's room, and a few minutes later, Cassell arrived to meet her. The young Marquise did not at all expect to meet her groom that day. They met in the living room. The white-haired scoundrel put on her best dress, a gift from the Marquise of Belchout, and spent the entire evening courting the crown prince. The young people started talking, and it all ended with Duke Kama staying at the Belchout estate until late at night. And this time, the greedy and envious trash just left like that, and what a book she had in her hands. Mirana is still learning basic etiquette with Miss Mariana, so why did she have an imperial etiquette manual with her? If you think about it, Vito kept asking the Marquise about the second prince. Was she really targeting him? The main character immediately moved towards Mirana's bedroom. She needed confirmation of her guesses. The maid called out to her. The maid with a ponytail curtsied to her mistress and greeted her radiantly. Jaina responded with a smile. What a beautiful hairpin Lily has. Where did she buy it? In fact, it was made by the maid's mother. The young Marquise acted surprised. Wow, Jaina was sure that she was made by a skilled craftsman. Young Belchout borrowed a couple of tricks from Mirana to gain allies. Maid Lily beamed at what was said. Obvious flattery really had an impact. This time, Jaina must enlist the support of absolutely everyone whom Mirana used in her past life. Lily, with shining eyes, asked to give a gift to her mistress, if she didn't mind. Jaina will happily accept Lily's gift and show it off at the next tea party. It's too much of an honor for a maid to let the mistress just accept the gift. Well, then the young Marquise will be looking forward to a gift from her maid. Lily bowed obediently. The Marchioness of Belchout knocked on the door of the bedroom of Baron Vito's daughter. It was necessary to find out her intentions. Mirana insistently bent over a textbook on imperial etiquette in her bedroom and motioned for Jaina to enter. What happened at such a late hour? The Marquise apologized for her intrusion. She simply missed Mirana. The white-haired lady is always happy about young Belchout. She was just about to take a break from her studies. Jaina picked up her book. Wow, imperial etiquette. Doesn't Miss Mariana still teach basic etiquette to Mirana? And so it was. The strict etiquette teacher is always dissatisfied and scolds poor Mirana. Miss Vito took this manual of imperial etiquette to study on her own. The young Marquise broke into a good-natured smile. Let Mirana not give up so easily. Miss Mariana scolds everyone. The girl learns imperial etiquette for the imperial ball. She read about it in fairy tale books as a child and dreamed of going there. In fact, there was no romance or childhood nostalgia in this dream, only a thirst for power and general recognition. She didn't want to embarrass herself in front of the royal family and studied the textbook until she was blind, then showed her bow and greeting to the emperor. The liar asked how her new skills were Miss Belchate. Jaina immediately blurted out that her knees needed to be placed together, and the head of the Baron's young daughter should be lowered even lower, but at a completely different angle. And also her dress. Mirana lifts it too high, she's not dancing in a tavern. Does a girl really have to try that hard? Jaina replied with a straight face that she should. Mirana's greeting was good for the minor nobles, but for the royal family she must try much harder. So you can safely continue learning from this book, Mirana beamed. This greeting is suitable for the entire royal family, for the emperor too. But you need to address your highness, not your excellency, to the emperor. Mirana nodded. She will practice more carefully. Then Mirana slyly asked casually, how old is the second prince? The daughter of Baron Vito was born in 53. The prince is 1 year older than her, which means he is 19 years old. Then it dawned on Jaina that in her past life, Mirana still knew nothing about the second prince, so she focused on Kassel. That is why the heir to the Kama dukedom was no longer part of the plans of the deceitful killer. She simply switched to a more promising prince. Yes, a young commoner with disgusting manners, a vile character, and a rotten soul really doesn't know her place. Mirana really wants to meet the second prince. Jaina is confident that she will be able to meet him soon. The Marquise burst into a smile. How much the thirst for power blinds Mirana. She is so easy to manipulate. Miss Vito simply glowed with happiness. She really liked hearing her name and prince in one sentence. Jaina laughed at her. A girl can be taken out of the village, but the village can never be taken out of the girl. Mirana even forgot about her beloved Rona, while her vacancy became open. Recently, the main issue among all the maids has become the choice of Mirana to be her personal maid. After the vile Rona was thrown out, her post was empty. The maids would not miss such an opportunity. However, their efforts will not change anything. Mirana needs an accomplice without a soul, principles, and morals, and not a servant with honor and nobility. The main maid obediently bowed before Mirana. Let the girl inform her when she selects a candidate for herself. And our main character certainly uses this to show how vile and empty Mirana is. Miss Vito chirped that she was very ashamed of Rona, so she would simply choose another maid from the street. Meanwhile, Jaina announced that she did not care how much she had to pay, as long as the right person was found. This is what she voiced to the head of staff, but the Marquise herself already had a candidate because Mirana would not trust the maids of Belchai. The girl will definitely hire a new maid, and this will be a fatal mistake for the insidious exploiter. Anna said that her mother's watch had been repaired in a workshop in Begonia, and she would send someone for it today. But Jaina herself will be pleased to walk in the clean and fresh air along the city streets. She will take them herself. The Marquise had not gone outside for a very long time, concentrating on how to protect her family from the white-haired executioner. The noisy and crowded streets of any capital, how the Marquise missed the usual walks here. In the workshop, she was warmly greeted by the artisan, which led young Belchate to his modest shop. Jaina replied that she had come for the watch that the Marquis of Belchat had left with the master for repairs. The repairman invited the young miss to come inside his shop. The watch would now be taken out. The Marquise Belchat's attention was attracted by a red velvet box on one of the shop windows. Jaina froze, Her Majesty's dazzling precious ring adorning her majestically. What is it doing here? The girl began to peer curiously at the jewelry. The master noted that the young Marquise has an incredibly keen eye for jewelry. And this beautiful ring studded with precious stones really belongs to Empress Helia. This is the same ring that the villagers called the epitome of luxury. She never wore the same dress twice, and in her vault there is an entire tower of famous jewelry. And despite her habits and whims, Empress Helia did not take this ring off her hand for a whole year. And this most legendary, precious, and incredibly expensive ring is now in the hands of the main character. Last year, a secret buyer from a workshop won an auction in the Lost Kingdom, which was incredibly difficult. Her ladyship's ring itself has no meaning, but the red diamond in it is priceless. The red diamond is a family heirloom of the royal family in the land of Lister and is passed down from generation to generation. The home of the Lister family dynasty is now at the very peak of its greatness and influence in society. But 20 years ago, their family was on the verge of bankruptcy, and it was Empress Helia who saved the family dynasty. When her family fell on hard times, Helia was forced to sell her family heirloom with great annoyance. Soon, when Empress Helia managed to improve her position, she tried to buy the relic back, but this turned out to be a difficult task. Her Imperial Majesty's assistant found a ring with a diamond in a jewelry store in the capital. Her Highness, the Empress Helia, and the Marquis of Belchat are from the noble family of the founders of these lands. They are considered powerful supporters. But there was something wrong here. Seeing how stupid and narrow-minded Mirana really was, the girl understood that she herself could not plan everything. However, the details of the relationship between Mirana and Empress Helia were still unknown to the main character. Jaina decided to buy this ring. If she had the ring, then they would understand that the relic of the Lister house that the Empress was looking for was in her hands. And the girl will easily win the Empress's trust by simply giving her her treasured ring with the family red diamond. Among the crowd of people, the young Marquise saw the familiar face of a girl in a cute yellow dress named Louise. The young girls were sincerely glad to meet each other so suddenly they had not seen each other for a long time. Louise immediately blurted out that a beauty had appeared at the Belchate estate. All the commoners and aristocrats were discussing this topic. Jaina grinned. Rumors were spreading fast. She would be introducing her to the public very soon. Louise is going to have a tea party at the family mansion very soon. Can she send an invitation to Lady Mirana Vito? A sweet and energetic lady named Louise comes from the noble Earl family of Silver. Their family dynasty specializes in journalism, which is how she knows Mirana's name, since she kept it a secret. If the Marquis of Belchat personally introduces young Mirana, it will become burdensome. It will be more convenient to introduce her to the rest of the ladies at the tea party in advance. It was this lady's tea party that became the first official place to which Jaina brought the scoundrel. It would be symbolic to show the real Mirana there. Young Belchate asked to recommend a concept for holding a tea party for a noble lady from the Silver family. The conversation with Miss Louise went very well. Jaina's mother's watch was in her hands. The master good-naturedly escorted the girl off. The Marquise got into her carriage and ordered the coachman to move towards their family estate. But then something attracted her attention. Among the narrow streets of Begonia, Mirana moved furtively among ordinary passers-by in a black robe. Jaina Belchate immediately ordered the coachman Hans to stop the carriage. She had to keep an eye on the scoundrel. The young Marquise jumped out of her carriage with lightning speed and ran towards the creeping Mirana. The girl ran as fast as she could and missed her target in one of the many alleys of the city. Jaina looked outside the walls of the house, but there was absolutely no one in the alley where this fake had disappeared. This cannot be. The Marquise ran after the girl almost point blank. Where did she go? The Marchioness returned to her coachman to see if he had seen where Miss Mirana had gone along this street. It was very difficult for the coachman Hans to look around, since his task was to watch the road. Hans didn't see anything, but it couldn't have been a visual error. Jaina definitely saw Mirana under the hood. Jaina returned to her estate in disappointment and began to think she clearly had not planned anything good. The lady asked the maid where Miss Vito was now, but she did not know. But the new bedroom for Miss Mirana was already finished, and it is possible that the girl is already there. The Marquise nodded. The redecoration was completed faster than expected after Mirana shocked the servants with her piggish behavior. Jaina unwittingly witnessed a conversation between two maids. The family is hiring a new personal maid for Mirana. This girl said that they cannot be relied on. The maids were indignant. Miss Vito's own maid stole the watch, and you can't rely on other maids. Rumors were already rapidly filling the walls of the Belchat family nest. The Marquise was working on all fronts. Her numerous hard-working bees were already spreading dark rumors throughout the estate. At one time, Mirana used this weapon, but now our heroine has cut off the ends of this opportunity. Since Miss Vito felt hostility towards her on the part of the staff, she especially tried not to interfere with them. Before leaving for Begonia, Jaina told her Anna to immediately begin spreading new rumors. The young miss told her personal maid that Mirana did not like the servants in the Belchat house, and she needed a new performer. The maids worked hard to get noticed, but they were doused with slop. One of them even took Mirana to the center of the capital a couple of times. But the Marchioness did not receive any reports that Mirana was leaving the family mansion. How interesting. The maid did not let up, although her colleague tried to calm her down. It's okay. Miss Vito won't be back for about an hour anyway. And in general, no one liked her at first sight. Everyone tried so hard for her, but she just spat in everyone's face because of her pink color, capricious rubbish. Such an obvious attempt by Dirt to get into the circle of the nobility, it is clear from it that she is not a noble aristocratic lady, but a street wench with a bad character. A low-grade girl will now never become a white angel, the most beautiful girl in the empire and the opinion leader of a noble society. Purely for comparison with this feigned fool, their gentlemen Belchate are many times better, so attentive and noble. It's not about status. The girl has hair the color of the night sky, sapphire eyes, noble beauty that makes you happy just by watching her. Yes, Miss Jaina was charming, and how did she act, taking the blame for herself when the dummy didn't like the room? The maid dreamed of becoming her personal assistant because spending time with such a lady is a pleasure. The young marquise knocked on Mirana's bedroom. The maids greeted her warmly. They had just finished. Because of the past, Jaina was not wildly delighted with the interior of the room, but this time she praised the maids and asked how Nora's brother was doing. Nora blissfully thanked her mistress. Her brother was much better because her mistress had sent him a good doctor. If you ever need the marquise's help, let him feel free to contact her, because her brother is also a member of the Belshot family. The maids are sprayed. Such a manifestation of care could not but play a role. And where is Miss Vito? Nora was told not to speak, but this was Miss Jaina, her benefactor. Besides, there is no need to keep the secrets of this rubbish with such an attitude towards the staff. So it was clear that a girl from another house or guild would become a personal servant. And the guest of the marquise's family did not evoke warm feelings. She was terribly rude and ignorant. It's just the beautiful and kind Miss Belchate, how much light and warmth she radiates. The maid can no longer think about Miss Vito's order. She is not her mistress after all. Judging by the maid's words, Mirana goes to the best clothing stores in the capital, ordinary places. Nothing suspicious. Miss Belchate took the maid's hands. Let her say next time when Mirana orders her to fulfill her strange request. After all, the young marquise is worried about both Mirana and Nora herself. The maid immediately nodded. Very suspicious. Mirana would never carry numerous bags from boutiques herself. If you remember, the main character really liked romantic stories from her past life. However, the marquise should now read more books that will help her in the situation, for example, Elementary Theology. It was this book on theology that Mirana read in a past life. Perhaps some answers will be found inside. An incredibly boring book. Belchate almost fell asleep studying page after page of this manual. There is no action plot, bright characters and feelings, sheer boredom, but you need to study. There was a majestic white tiger on the page of the theology textbook, and Jaina had just read a whole paragraph about it. It was difficult for her to imagine an animal with a white color and red eyes. It was just some kind of mysticism. By the way, what kind of animal did Saint Cecilia, who ascended the throne last year, have, a deer or a rabbit? The marquise was called out by her faithful assistant. They have candidates for Mirana's personal maids. Then we shouldn't keep our guest waiting. We need to quickly resolve the issue with her personal maid. In front of Miss Vito stood two girls, the friendly green-haired Pearl and the frightened Ellie with a ponytail. That is, Miss Mirana had to choose her maid directly only from these two candidates. Jaina said the girl on the right has a great portfolio. She would definitely choose Pearl. The young marquise knew perfectly well what would influence the decision of the cunning fake. They prepared everything perfectly. Mirana hesitated, but Miss Ellie was also good, although she had a gloomy appearance, and Pearl embarrassed her a little. Of course, Miss Pearl should have embarrassed Mirana, because she was so similar to Emily, who accused her of stealing from Rona. The stupid, lying young lady doesn't even realize that the decision has already been made a long time ago, and not even by herself. Given the circumstances, there was only one worthy option for Miss Mirana. The day before Mirana arrived in the capital, Jaina immediately decided to get rid of Rona, but whoever would take her place needed the right people. Anna knew a certain Ellie. The girl was smart and pretty, and was also looking for a job with a good salary. The maid vouched for her, a bright and decent lady, very suffering and responsible. He also has a very cute appearance, deep eyes, and a pleasant appearance, which is also a plus. Appearance does not matter as much as loyalty. They need that maid who will never be able to give the marquis, since there will be a lot of temptations. Anna said that feelings of loyalty were easy to establish and would serve as a strong foundation for their interactions. After all, Ellie's father got into debt, and now the girl is threatened by loan sharks. Jaina just needs to become her savior. Then two young girls began to watch the house of the future maid Mirana. The man loomed menacingly over the poor thing her father owed him. The marquise was crying with rage. How could this idiot treat a girl like that? And there was also a child in the house. The girl begged to wait. She would pay for everything. The moneylender just needed to give her a little time. Ellie told her little sister May to stay back. The evil man would leave soon. Maya began to cry in tears and begged the big guy not to hit her big sister. Jaina clenched her teeth. Then, before her execution, she was also beaten and tortured. Jaina will never forget this. The Marquise couldn't just watch, but Anna stopped her. It was too early. The deadline was tomorrow. Maya consoled her beaten sister. The loan shark said his last word. Ellie has one day to return the money. The vile freak grabbed the baby by the hand. Ellie almost went crazy with fear for her sister. A vile loan shark takes the child as guarantor for Ellie's payment. The Marquise broke away from Anna's hands. The maid realized that she could not be convinced and ordered her to insist on her own. Anna would protect her, if necessary. Young Belchate followed her new devoted ally in the fight for the lives of her family, poor Ellie. Jaina told the stubborn idiot to get his paws off the child. The loan shark told her to get out, but she refused. The last warning to immediately release the child. The Marquise's voice was steely. The moneylender involuntarily staggered. There was an alarming silence. Ellie waited in horror for what would happen to her sister Maya. The blockhead let go of Maya's hand. The girl immediately rushed towards the frightened older sister. Doesn't the young lady know who is behind the moneylender? She shouldn't interfere in the affairs of the Listers. Even the nobility can't interfere with them. Empress Helia comes from the Lister family and wields enormous influence in the political arena. A nobleman without title or influence may have stayed at the Lister estate, but it is unlikely that an ignoramus would deal with nobles like the Marchioness. Therefore, it is better for the moneylender to do as he is now told and forget about this family. The Marquise is the daughter of the commander-in-chief of the Imperial Army. He is sure that he wants to fight with him. It is probably better to take the money and get out. Young Belchate contemptuously threw a bag of money at the scoundrel's feet. She will pay Ellie's father's debt in full. The moneylender did not expect such a turn and asked the lady to take the rest. Jaina replied that he should immediately get out of her sight. The moneylender will no longer bother their family. Ellie hugged her little sister tightly. Why did the Marchioness do this for them? Radiant Jaina took off her hood. Let Ellie take care of her sister first. Maya is shaking all over. When this freak decided to take Maya away, Ellie's whole world collapsed. But then her savior appeared and returned her sister to her. Ellie was immensely grateful to her mistress. If she needed a maid, she would gladly become one. The noble lady did not know how else to repay such an exorbitant debt to her savior. The young and grateful girl fell to her knees in front of the Marquise. She would do absolutely everything before her mistress. So Jaina got her own man in the enemy's lair. Mirana can choose the one she likes best. Naturally stupid Mirana chose Ellie, the same devoted young Marquise Ellie. What a wonderful choice. Soon the maid Ellie entered the Belchate family's house. Jaina asked her to do two things. The first request was to earn the full trust of Miss Mirana by any means. The girl should become her right hand. And secondly, Ellie should only observe Mirana's actions and not interfere, even if she is going to harm Jaina. Ellie stood obediently and waited in the wings. She would definitely help her mistress. Mirana looked at her candidate approvingly. She wouldn't be able to trust her anytime soon anyway. But Ellie will do everything to find out her secrets and secrets. She must help her mistress. The good-natured maid Lily brought a letter for the young Marquise with an invitation to a tea party at the Silvers' house. This is the first unofficial debut of the white-haired scoundrel in society. The Marquise is so excited. Mirana was all in awe because she thought that opportunities were flowing into her hands to destroy the Marquise. Everyone dreamed of receiving the coveted invitation from the Silvera house. It was an honor. So in secular society, there are two girls who should not be angered under any circumstances. These are Lady Louise Silver and Princess Haley's. In the past, after attending this tea party in the house of the Silver family, Jaina quarreled with Louise due to the fault of the blonde brat. Jaina never understood the situation at the time, as the following series of sad events occurred, and the Marquise simply did not have time to clear away all the garbage that Mirana was throwing at her. It is interesting that then Mirana told Miss Silver. The Marquise was interrupted by the maid Lily. The girl almost jumped in surprise. Lily wanted to say something to her mistress. Jaina looked at her questioningly. Nothing of the sort, dear Lily just wanted to give a gift to her mistress with all her heart. In the box was a hair clip that her mother had made, which she and Lily had talked about in the hallway. Lily's mother chose a different design from her hairpin specifically for the awning. This item is not as good as the rest of Belchate's couture pieces. Let the maid not even dare to talk like that about her mother's gift. She made it with her own hands, which means it is already more valuable than all her things. The maid's face flushed red. It was the first time she had given a gift to a noble lady, and it was the first time the Marquise had received one from a maid. Jaina was very pleased that she had previously neglected to communicate with her employees. The lady could not believe that she had received a gift from the maid and decided to open the box immediately. Young Lily immediately squealed and ran around the corner. The girl asked to open the gift after she left. The Marquise did just that, and in a small box lay a beautiful hairpin from Miss Jaina's own dress. After all, Lily's mother used to earn money by sewing. The lady gave Lily a dress that she no longer wore. It may have gone out of fashion, but it was still woven from expensive fabrics and expensive jewelry, so it could be made into other things and sold at a high price. Jaina looked closely at her gift and couldn't believe that the hairpin was made from her old dress. Lily's mom really has golden hands. Maybe she should wear this jewelry to the event, just like she said. Mirana called out to the girl at the mirror. She came to show off her invitation to her first party. Mirana will forever be an uninvited guest there, Jaina confirmed. The letter is from Miss Louise Silver. The country was wondering where a family involved in journalism learned about such a simpleton from the South, and not just her. Jaina was sure that Mirana herself was involved, but she didn't show it because rumors fly so quickly. Rumor has it that the beautiful and young beauty now lives under the wing of the Belchate family. Mirana is so embarrassed. Who called her a beauty? What a cheap production, not a drop of talent. Of course, Miss Vito knew that she was beautiful, and she always took advantage of this gift since she had nothing else. How blind people are, why can't they see the inner inside behind the outer shell? Mirana turned her attention to Miss Jaina's desk, where there was a huge stack of letters. The girl beamed. Wow, she will also have so much. The Marquise nodded. Not all letters are invitations, but after publication, Mirana will have a lot of them. By the way, Jaina was also invited to a tea party at the Silver family residence so they can go together. Mirana is very glad that they will go together. She doesn't even know what she would do there completely alone without the Marquise. And in the past, Mirana went there without the young heroine. The girl really wanted to open the letter. She had not read it yet. The tea party will be in the style of a masquerade, but why wear a mask if you are going to drink tea? On the day of the meeting with Miss Louise, it was the Marquise of Belchat who suggested this theme for her tea party. The masquerade tea party was first held by the young Princess Rosalia, who was the gossip queen of the previous generation. Participants in the mysterious event were required to wear masks that half-covered their faces and use pseudonyms. Real masquerades in the Empire served as an event where everyone hid their identity and looked for a partner. Only adult aristocrats were allowed to attend, and there was alcohol and obscenity. Conservative aristocrats did not like such vicious parties. Rosalia was outraged. Why on earth should she neglect her mask? The princess loved her masks more than the carnivals themselves, so she began to wear them even for tea parties and match them to the color of her dress, which became a real trend. Nowadays, it is no longer so fashionable, but in those days, such parties were incredibly popular. Mirana did not know such interesting details. The history of the capital is so exciting. She will definitely like it here. In addition, that same Princess Rosalia is the mother of Miss Louise Silver. They are even somewhat similar. The white-haired viper jumped for joy as there were so many influential nobles. She was waiting and couldn't wait to meet all of them. In this case, it was time for the girls to start urgently choosing suitable dresses and masks. The next morning, an inspired Mirana unceremoniously burst into Jaina's room and dragged the girl to go shopping. Miss Vito was excited, and choosing an outfit was the most important thing for her. Jaina did not share her enthusiasm, although, to take it from her, she has nothing but her appearance, so she fusses over her. In the afternoon of the same day, 2 young girls went shopping in the capital. So many beautiful outfits and jewelry shone from the windows. Mirana wanted everything at once. The girl was tormented and could not choose which of these dresses she should try on first. Jaina told the boutique staff to pack everything they had so that young Mirana could enjoy the clothes and not suffer. Then Miss Belchate suggested that Mirana go to Begonia's workshop. Who knows what they might find there? The master introduced himself to Marco. Today, he will become a consultant for the girls. After all, they are also preparing for the Silver's tea party. The other invited ladies also visited his shop to buy beautiful masks. But Marco will make the best masks for him and Mirana no matter what. The consultant is very glad that masquerade masks have come back into fashion. Let the girls choose anyone they like. Mirana didn't even bother to look at anything. She pointed at the first mask she came across, which was not at all typical for her. Her whole appearance seemed to be shouting that she needed to leave here. Her eyes were running. Sweat was running down her forehead. The Marquise realized that there was clearly something hiding here. Too obvious excitement and nervousness in the girl's body. In addition, Mirana tries not to look into the eyes of both the Marchioness and the consultant Marco. Jaina suggested that the girl go to other stores. Since she had already finished here, the Marquise would pay for everything she liked. The main character decided to play along with the scoundrel, let her relax, otherwise it would be difficult for her to watch her. And the vile snake still has so many plans to exterminate the Marquise's family. We must not let her change her focus. For Mirana, this was salvation. It was as if the Marquise had read her thoughts. The girl was extremely pleased and immediately ran out of the shop. Marco noticed that the girls seemed to be very close. Jaina said that she and Mirana were like sisters. The Marquise had a special order for her mask. Marco understood everything and will try to do everything in the best possible way. The mask should be the cutest. The consultant was very pleased with the young Mrs. selectivity and choice of his workshop. In this case, it's time for young Belchate to get back to business. She thanked and said goodbye to Marco. Mirana tearfully begged Miss Mariana to let her go to a tea party because the girl wanted it so much. But the teacher was adamant that the lady should immediately stop horse riding. The decision had already been announced to her. If suddenly a girl from the village goes to an event with such knowledge, then she will disgrace not only herself, but also the teacher. That's why Mirana asked to be present at her lesson with Miss Mariana. The young Marquise needed her support. Since Jaina had already planned everything, she urgently needed to convince her teacher to let Mirana go, otherwise everything would be in vain. The Marquise assured the teacher that in order to make a worthy debut at the Imperial Ball, she simply needed to attend Louise's tea party. Jaina also asks that Mirana's efforts be taken into account. Now she can even greet the gentleman with dignity. If you look closely, thanks to the teacher's lessons, Mirana became like Princess Halis and has come a long way. In fact, no one thinks so, but she had to convince her. The teacher objectively assessed his students, but also listened to the opinions of his masters. Young Miss Vito's talent is just like Princess Halis. If she learns tea etiquette by tomorrow, let her go. The girls nodded gratefully. The Marquise will teach her guest personally. Everything will be fine. Then, after the teacher left at about 6 o'clock, Jaina explained the rules of tea etiquette to the clueless Mirana. If you motivate her with the second crown prince, the girl tries much harder. The girls received permission. Mirana did not improve. She did not hold her cup or her back correctly. Her speech was also simple and rude. But the job was done. The main character, with half-hearted grief, convinced the teacher because it was necessary to continue the war. Very soon, the scoundrel will say that she is sick and send the Marquise alone to a tea party, only to then kick her out and lie about her. And here it is, Ellie brought bad news. Miss Mirana injured her ankle and told Jaina to go to the party without her. Rona, in her past life, told her the same thing, poor thing. Is Mirana okay? Maybe she will need something. The injury was not serious, and she would be fine after some time of rest. Jaina asked Mirana to come when she felt better. In a past life, the naive Jaina immediately ran to Mirana's bedroom with questions and a desire to help her condition. But this was just a pretense. In the end, Mirana did not go with them, as Jaina said. Was it really so that she would cause a scandal later? After all, the Marquise can be shamed for this. But Mirana will not do that. She feigns innocence. After her provocations, she herself behaves like a victim and watches. And then events will develop even worse. This will be the second blow to Jaina's reputation and position. Finally, the carriage arrived at the Silver family estate. It was impossible to forget about the most important thing of today. Miss Jaina put the mask on her face. The show begins. The heroine has prepared well for him. Everything should go smoothly and according to plan. This time, it was she who dictated the rules. In the garden, a cute pink-haired girl in a bunny mask called her and told her to follow her. The Marquise corrected the lady. Today she is not Jaina at all, but Sienna. This is an important part of the masquerade. Sienna was the main character of the novel I Ask You, Princess. Then the lady will be the heroine of The Glass Mirror. The sweet girl's name was Lilia. She always admired the Marquise and was her right hand. They have a good relationship. But one day, Mirana's dirty provocations led to their quarrel, but over time the girls still restored their relationship. The plan to separate the two friends failed, and Mirana decided to hit Lilia. And in the end, the poor and persecuted girl had to leave the city to avoid attacks from Mirana. Since then, during her lifetime, Jaina had never been able to meet her friend, but she was so glad to see her again. Miss would like to ask Lady Sienna something. Where did she get such a beautiful piece of jewelry from? One of the maid's mother made it. The decoration was truly beautiful and eye-catching. Lily's mother put her heart into it. Immediately, the two old friends were surrounded by a whole crowd of ladies running in. Where did Miss manage to buy such a wonderful hairpin? The girls begged them to sell them this decoration too. Miss Jaina will ask Lily and tell the ladies. Where is that same girl? Is she really not coming? The Marquise said that the shipment was simply delayed. She will arrive soon. Local ladies had already heard about her incomparable beauty. Only Mirana could become famous thanks to her beauty. Girls will be fascinated by silver hair because it is very rare there was no such hair color among the nobility. How nice it is sometimes to just chat about nothing with friends, to take your mind off oppressive thoughts. The girls were distracted by more interesting topics of conversation. The lady called herself Rosia, but everyone knew that it was Louise. Miss Silver did not expect such a response from the guests. She is grateful to Miss Jaina for her wonderful idea. This tea party was gladly organized by her mother, Princess Rosalia. She was really looking forward to this event. As expected, everything was precisely for the sake of a personal meeting with Princess Rosalia herself. Everything is going as usual. After further preparation of the Marquise, Mirana herself should appear. And the snake thinks that she is smart now and will destroy the Marquise's life just by appearing at the tea party. A female voice was heard behind the girl. He called Miss Louise, or rather Rosia, to come to her. Swimming majestically before the young debutantes was the same Princess Rosalia, the mother of Miss Louise Silver. Louise frowned childishly. Why did her mother come and distract her? She was talking with her friends. Lilia immediately jumped up and began to say a greeting to the royal person with all honors, but Rosalia interrupted her and ordered her to sit down. It's no wonder that the Marquise's friend is so nervous. Rosalia has caused the envy of all the noble ladies. In her youth, Rosalia was a very important figure in imperial circles, and she is still known as a princess as a sign of respect and influence. Rosalia turned to Jaina and thanked the young Marquise of the House of Belchat for such a wonderful idea for a tea party. Then the princess noticed the main character's mask. It was exactly the same as the princess herself had worn during her first appearance. It was a great honor for the Marquise to meet Rosalia. The princess did not even think that someone her daughter's age would be aware of this mask. This mask is a sign of respect. Jaina has wanted to wear this mask since her late mother told her a story about it. Princess Rosalia remembered Jaina's mother, which means she told her daughter about her. Of course, in every house of this kingdom, legends were made about the incredible Princess Rosalia, about the red rose of the empire. It was outright flattery, but it was better to hide true feelings behind white envy. Now the Marquise had no choice. Princess Rosalia liked to listen to compliments from the young Marquise. Let him continue. Mirana was not the only enemy of the heroine. She had to prepare for everything. Where did the Marquise find such a mask? The princess lost hers long ago. But looking at Jaina, she would like to return it. Then it was Marco who created the original mask for the Princess. Rosalia will probably want the same mask. The Marquise asked if Jaina could give the princess her mask. It would be a great honor for her. Rosalia was grateful to the girl. But this is just a mask. She's clearly not worth the royal gratitude. But it was not just a mask. After giving birth, Rosalia's health deteriorated greatly, and she lived in solitude. After her recovery, the princess was afraid to return to the social circle, since she had long been no longer at the helm. However, her daughter's tea party with masquerade masks brought the princess back to a time when she was setting trends. Once again, Rosalia was the center of attention. She was admired by young people, and the princess regained her former confidence. The main character was also well aware of the fear of being forgotten. Rosalia was immensely grateful to the young Marquise. Jaina was treated the same way. It was the Marquise who was the general favorite and the flower of society. She was admired. The Marquise was sincerely loved, followed and looked up to until the scoundrel appeared. Then no one remembered the Marquise. It was as if she had been covered with a dome, under which no one could hear her. The princess happily accepted Jaina's gift. Next time she will gladly invite her to Silver's estate. Princess Rosalia no longer wanted to embarrass the girls and said goodbye. The ladies looked after her blissfully, except for Louise, who rolled her eyes. Princess Rosalia has returned to the light of society. Lilia can see all the royal families in one place. But what about the first prince of the empire, whom no one had ever seen? Louise often visited the palace. Did she see him? Miss Silver saw the first prince when she was very little and did not remember his face, manners, or hobbies. The heir to the great empire was named Elaine. He was the son of the emperor's first wife, handsome and smart, but with a congenital flaw. Due to health problems, young Elaine could not appear in secular society from early childhood. The palace doctor immediately concluded that the prince would not live to see 20 years of age and would die from health problems. In the past, Jaina attended the funeral of the first prince, which happened in the early winter of this year. In any case, the prince was not part of her plans. Miss Jaina was called out by a maid. Miss Vito was looking for her outside. Louise, having heard about the beauty of young Miss Vito and followed her, Mirana really sparkled and will continue to shine in social circles. Jaina was worried about Mirana's health. She takes her inside because the other girls are already tired of waiting. Mirana clenched her fists. The butler was looking for Miss Belchate. It would be better for her to return to the family estate. How funny. The same excuse for appearing at an event alone without the Marquise stopping everyone from lying. That time, Miss Jaina believed Mirana and immediately went home, and that was all the lying scoundrel needed. While the Marquise ran to save her estate, the reptile decided to smear her name, presenting herself as a victim of her cruelty. But the butler did not understand how he could call the Marquise to the estate, why Miss Mirana would say such a thing. Then Jaina thought it was a simple misunderstanding. The Marchioness decided that Louise would look after her and stayed at home. Then Mirana returned from the tea party all in tears and gossiped that Miss Louise had ridiculed her in front of everyone for being a commoner. And this spoiled lady even discredited the Duke himself for taking Miss Vito under his wing. Mirana, as always, did a good job of clouding the consciousness of the main character, putting pressure on Pity and her position among the nobility. Then Jaina was beside herself and went to the Silver Estate without an invitation to find the offender. The Marquise burst into the hall, insulting the girl. How dare she offend the poor white angel? Louise was offended by this behavior. How Jaina dared to so unceremoniously break into her mansion and defame her honor. Miss Silver drove the Marquise away from her estate, not wanting to get angry in front of the other ladies. Then Jaina considered her behavior stupid, so the Marquise slapped her in front of all her guests. The two girls then grappled tightly, and their sparring became the most discussed topic, and then Jaina lost face in society. Sometime later, the Marquise realized that something did not add up in the words of the lying Mirana. Why Louise was so angry, she sincerely did not understand what the Marquise of Belshot was telling her. Since Miss Jaina had then lost her face, she had no opportunity to clear it up with the offended Louise. This time, the girl hopes to find out what happened then. The Marquise will immediately return to the estate. Mirana nodded happily. The scoundrel's plan was a success. Nothing would happen to her. The teacher taught her well. Jaina had to pretend that she believed this viper. Then everything would go according to her plan. The Marquise introduced Miss Silver to Mirana. She is the organizer of the tea party and will look after the guest. The girl has purple hair and came to the tea party in a yellow dress. You need to be polite to her. Since Louise is royalty, Mirana must not disgrace herself, the House of Belchai and Miss Mariana. Mirana will do everything right. Even if the Marquise is already on her way to her family estate, it was time for her to turn everyone against Jaina. The Marquise waved after the departing murderer. She can't imagine what it's like to get involved with someone who has been deprived of everything. The Marquise's hand was intercepted by Louise. She asked the girl to stay at her evening. The butler would inform him if something serious happened. Miss Silver has so many plans for today. Louise was a good and correct person with a strong character. She had a special role. So first, let Jaina drink a potion to change her hair color. With such a disguise, you can do whatever you want. How much fun they will have today. Louise was involved in part of the Marquise's plan, after which they will need to change her dress to a new one. Then it will be necessary to change the guest's hairstyle and replace the mask with a new one, which really no one else recognized the Marquise. It shouldn't have gone that far, but such a professional disguise is very amusing. Louise did a good job. Jaina looked dazzling, even with other appearance features. Absolutely everything suited her. How to refuse such a person? The Marchioness thanked Miss Louise for her generosity. In fact, prior to the event, Jaina had visited her and asked for a favor. Jainism apologized for her arrival without an invitation, but she had a very strange request. It sounded interesting. Louise was in favor. If Miss Mirana suddenly says something about the Marquise tomorrow, Miss Silver will certainly tell her about it. It's embarrassing to talk about it, but apparently Mirana is spreading rumors about the Marquise. The maids talked about it. Jaina hates to think about it, and especially Mirana, so it's important for her to know. Although no, this is complete absurdity. The Marquise asks for forgiveness for her impudence, but Louise intercepts her hand. Miss Silver had an idea about this. Such things should not be ignored in their society. They could cost her dearly. Then Louise developed a wonderful plan, which the Marquise herself hinted at, and they came to a common decision. Miss Silver will suggest using a disguise. She herself will be interested in whether they can recognize her. That's when this plan came into being. It would be better to keep Jaina's identity a secret from the beginning. But since Jaina couldn't predict Marana's behavior, she needed to watch her carefully. Louise was grateful to the Marquise, so she helped with her strange idea. In addition, it made her very happy. And there's Lady Vito. Louise will go to her first. She winked at the Marquise. Let Jenna not lag behind. Louise ran up to Miss Marana and introduced herself as Rosia. The scoundrel reverently called herself Marana Vito. Since the girls are now at a masquerade party, Marana must come up with another name. Then she will be Rona. For now, young Miss Liar is acting politely, but very soon she will show her true ugliness. She was clearly told that Louise would be in a yellow dress and with purple hair, so Marana knew who was in front of her. And now the huntress's eyes no longer took her eyes off her noble goal. Louise was to become her pawn. Louise looked at the Marquise with a straight face, ruining the whole surprise. She was the only one here with such a description. Marana would like to meet Miss Silver in advance. Miss Belchate told her to beware of her. But everyone in the evening has a fake name, so I'm not sure I should ask Rosia that. According to a certain article, a certain noblewoman committed suicide. These words drove both girls into a stupor. It seems that the lady's name was Pina Malbo. The Marquise told her this, and also that it was better not to bother her, because she was to blame for the death of that noble woman. But where Marana heard about this, where she knew where to beat poor Louise, only a narrow circle knows about it. Marana enjoyed every painful gesture in the facial expressions of poor Louise. She was clearly enjoying herself. This was unthinkable. This is classified information. The Marquise never spoke about it. Is it really all rumors on the street? Lady Pina Malbo's suicide left a painful scar on Miss Silver's heart, which is why she was so angry. That's why Louise didn't want to listen to the Marquise then, considering her a dirty traitor. Louise's father, Count Silver, owns and publishes in a number of leading publishing houses in the empire. Therefore, from childhood, the curious Louise was interested in newspaper articles and signs. And already at the age of 13, Miss Silver began writing articles in order to become a journalist in the future, like her father. Despite such a young age, obtaining permission to publish articles from the daughter of Count Silver was not a problem. Little Miss Silver's articles weren't very good because they only contained gossip. However, after one of these articles, a certain Pina Malbo decided to deal with herself. This became a real trauma for young Louise. Since then, she could not pick up a pen. The girl was so shocked and broken that she left the capital for a year. To protect her daughter, the name of the author of this article was made anonymous, and the Marquise found out about it by chance. Jaina then found herself sharing a room with a relative who was the editor of that newspaper and mentioned the incident. Then the Marquise assured Louise that it was not her fault at all, and she would take this secret with her to the grave. Pina Malbo was from an ordinary aristocratic family. Her half-brother constantly bullied her, and the article only made the situation worse. Then, how did the newly arrived trash know about this? In the past, Louise probably thought that only Jaina could tell such a thing. After all, Miss Silver has still not recovered from this pain. And Marana used her wound and made the Marquise the culprit. Louise crossed her arms in front of her and asked Miss Vito if she knew who was in front of her. Here, the two ladies were interrupted by the rest of the annoying girls. They all wanted to meet Miss Vito. Is silver hair color really her? What an unimaginable rarity. Well, of course, since we're talking about a white-haired foreigner, of course, a whole crowd of people will gather around. One of the girls turned to Miss Louise and asked to take off their masks, because everyone wanted to see Marana's beauty. Did Miss Vito just talk to Miss Louise herself? This can't be true. It's a cheap game. Louise allowed everyone present to remove their masks. The royal heiress was amazed at Marana's behavior. Miss Silver asked Marana to take off her mask. The girls were all shocked by such angelic beauty. Princess Halis and Miss Belchate were known for their beauty in the empire, but Marana was much more beautiful. Among the crowd, a red-haired girl came forward and introduced herself as Sylvia Lister. Was Marana really all alone here? Jaina went to her family estate, leaving her guest completely alone. The eldest daughter of Count Lister stood in front of Marana. Marana assumed that Jaina had gone to her fiancé Cassel and she did not want to disturb them. The pathetic manipulator always started by saying what she assumed, and then, when the truth was revealed, she said that she was simply mistaken. Thus, the lying reptile never took responsibility for her spoken words. How will Louise react to Mirana's words? How could the Marquise just up and go on a date with her fiancé, leaving a new girl at her first debut? Sylvia began, as usual, to openly condemn the actions of the Marquise. Their family became the most powerful, but the Belchate had a history and were always considered the most noble. Sylvia Lister's position was very precarious due to disagreements between the two family clans. The Listers were engaged in usury, which in itself was not very noble, and indicated that they had no other use. Disgusting manners, rotten and envious character, envy and lack of principles. Sylvia Lister was very similar to Mirana. She just went much further in her greed and filth. In addition, the girl hated Jaina because of her engagement to Kasel Kama. She was in love with him. The Marquise should have been more tactful, although she always behaves this way. The whole atmosphere was ruined because of Mirana. Miss Vito was so embarrassed because Jaina helped her so much. Mirana owes her so much. One of the girls intervened in their conversation and asked why the Baron's daughter decided to wear black shoes. These shoes go perfectly with the dress. Jaina picked them out. The trash learned etiquette to discredit the Marquise. Sylvia beamed. A perfect way to discredit her lover's fiancé. Miss Vito has nothing to worry about. Mirana looks scared. Black shoes mean bad luck, so they are only worn to funerals. Giving such shoes as a gift is like cursing a person, so the fuss was happy. Miss Vito was so naive, and the Marchioness took advantage of it. Sylvia was immediately told to stop. She was too cowardly to say such a thing around Jaina. Actually, Lister can do whatever he wants, but she hasn't heard anything about Lily Cito's family. Lilia, as always, is faithful to her friend, and Sylvia is immensely insignificant and cowardly, and belongs to this kind. It was time for the main character to come out. She saw what she wanted. It was time to have fun with the offenders. Many famous scientists came from the Cito family. There is no need to show off your lack of education. The magic has subsided. The Marquise was here from the very beginning. How could she leave Mirana here alone? It's not in her rules. How dare Jaina call Lister uneducated in front of everyone? Sylvia is perfectly erudite and knows about all the scientists. But the ulcer just said that he doesn't know any sieve. What kind of erudition can we even talk about? It is undignified to eavesdrop on other people's conversations. Only Lister behaves undignifiedly here. Jaina was disguised for the competition, and Sylvia was inattentive to her words. Therefore, as the hostess of the evening, the caustic Sylvia is strongly recommended to stop the bullying. All the ladies of the court were afraid of Louise because of her royal blood, influential relatives, and strength of character. Sylvia immediately retreated, her rat's tail between her legs. She had another meeting planned. She had to go. As soon as Miss Lister left, harmony reigned. Did Miss Belchate go to Prince Kama, as Mirana said? Mirana immediately threw the arrows at the maid. She said it. And in general, Miss Vito can move to Jaina. Miss Louise cannot allow Mirana to do this here. The deceitful creature decided to avoid further questions. Cyrano slowly stood up, carefully considering how she could now get out of the situation without exposing her rotten appearance. It was necessary to urgently leave on her own and take the Marquise away in order to cut off the loose ends and prevent rumors about lies from spreading. The snake resorted to its favorite method. It took a couple of steps towards Louise, supposedly going to talk to her. And then her leg twists dramatically, a heartbreaking, painful cry and fall. All the guests were extremely concerned about her injury, but this was all an insignificant lie from a cheap actress from the outback. Miss Vito begged Jaina to return to the estate and rest because her ankle was very painful. The reptile wanted to take the main character away from the party under such a pretext, but today she will leave alone. Mirana practically dragged the main character into the carriage by force, having already forgotten about her injury. The pathetic liar was called from behind. She immediately put on her frightened and innocent look and began to limp. Then the hostess of the evening intervened. She told the scoundrel to return to the mansion alone. She would ask the maid to accompany her. Louise had some matter to discuss with Miss Belchate, so she must stay late. The reason for staying at the party and sending Mirana with her appeared on its own. There were too many witnesses around, so Mirana could not show her hostility. Jaina hoped that this snake would tremble with anxiety until the Marquise returned. But the Marquise will not even show that she knows something and understands. You cannot scare the enemy. Everything must go according to plan. Otherwise, the reptile's actions may become unpredictable, and it will be more difficult to prevent a disaster. After her departure, there was a feeling of a past storm. Lilia was the first to speak up. Why Miss Vito lied about the black shoes. The friend did not believe the lying bastard, but the Marquise really bought these shoes for her. Now is the time to show yourself as a victim, and by and large it was. Only now people heard it. Here, then, was the man who would acquit the Marchioness, Vicomte de Fal's niece. Miss Lindsay saw them in the store. And Miss Belchate did not choose these shoes for her guest. She chose for Marana golden silk shoes with stones, the most expensive ones in the store. Lindsay was sure that the Marquise had not seen her in the store, but she did. Since Marana had a hard time choosing, the Marquise bought the entire shelf. Miss Jaina is such an amazing friend. She also bought that bastard a diamond necklace. This means that Miss Vito deliberately chose those black shoes and made it look like it was a gift from the Marquise. The girls immediately realized that the new girl was a pathetic liar. Why did Mirana do this? Because by doing this, she seriously dealt a blow to her reputation. The voices of disapproval began to sound even louder. New people are already humiliated so as not to be accepted into their circle. And here is another reason. In the past, the scoundrel filled everyone's eyes with her imaginary beauty, thoroughly saturated with poison. Now people see her true face. In addition, the Marquis hired an etiquette teacher for the young guest. Since she was going to announce herself to society, she knew exactly the meaning of the color black. Jaina asked Miss Mariana herself to become a mentor for Marana. The girls were dumbfounded. Everyone wanted to get such a teacher, but were refused. How insignificant and lost you have to be such an ignorant after training. The Marquise began to say that Marana was getting better with every lesson. Needless to say, what happened before her training. Miss Belchate should not mess with such a rotten girl. She deliberately tried to discredit her honor. A sea of compassion for the Marquise, a mass of bile towards the mean girl. Now everything was right. Poor Jaina. How dare this liar treat her like this? The impudent girl needs to be reined in immediately. The ladies did not stop their condemnations. They loved to discuss the sins of other people. The Marquise became everyone's heroine. It was simply unthinkable to tolerate such a scoundrel under one's wing. Louise wanted to talk in private after what happened with Marana. She was very hurt by her words. The Marquise did a good job today. The scoundrel was sent home in disgrace. The ladies are buzzing. As soon as the party ended, Louise began to say goodbye and see off the guests. Now, all the ladies also wanted to have a masquerade. The society ladies thanked the organizer of the tea party for such an interesting reception and such an interesting selection of guests. Louise was very pleased. She loved to please others, and she was hosting the party with her mother, so it was doubly pleasant to invite her. Jaina helped her a lot with this event, even helping her mother, Princess Rosalia, interrupt her hermitage. While everyone was saying goodbye to the hostess of the evening, the faithful Lily approached Jaina, wondering if the Marquise really was dating Kazel. This is another lie from that scoundrel. She made a mistake in her choice of words for a reason. No one said this out loud, but everyone thought the same thing. The heroine thanked her friend for her help and support. After all, that's what real friends are, for Jaina can always rely on Lilia. After everyone left, Jaina also returned to the Silver Estate, because she and Louise never reached an agreement. Jaina never told the story about Pina Malba. Louise confidently said that she knew it. The Marquise is not the only one who knows the truth. Louise tried to understand why the reptile mentioned this name. She was targeting Jaina. The Marquise didn't know why she did this to her. She did everything for Mirana and told her not to listen to Louise. Miss Silver roared, "How dare a brazen low-grade liar say such a thing about a noble?" Louise was very straightforward, honest, and strong-willed. She did not tolerate disrespect and lies, so Mirana would never have become her friend. Louise would have immediately torn apart the annoying scoundrel, but the Marquise stopped her and apologized on her behalf. "Jaina is so kind-hearted, you can't let this idiot do whatever she wants. Louise will deal with her for the heroine, and she will just watch." After returning in time, the girl had a new goal. She was going to take away everything that was most precious from the killer and become the flower of society. In the past, Miss Belchate clearly observed how to get such a high title. There was nothing to worry about. You just had to follow her path, become a good-natured lady with a pure heart and thoughts. And then all roads will be open before her. There will be common love and respect, and Mirana will be afraid to even approach her. The Marquise shed a crystal tear down her cheek. One day, Mirana will understand that she did wrong. If Jaina really thinks so, then Louise will not stir up conflict, but she should be careful. However, one more such case, and even the Marquise will no longer be able to save this village, rootless scoundrel, and this will definitely happen again. Mirana was not a persistent player. She just did not know the limits of her lies. She would not be able to withstand a strong opponent in life. The reptile then brainwashed everyone. Jaina clarified whether Louise knew whether a person could control others. Is it possible to manipulate the minds of other people? It sounds fantastic and impossible. On the southern continent, there lived a witch who was capable of such a thing. Is the Marquise really interested in such a method? For example, a love potion, as in sensational novels, can serve as this method. Returning home, the heroine was haunted by thoughts about her conversation with Louise. The southern continent was always the subject of rumors. In reality, it did not exist. In the past, many explorers or curious people have laid down their lives in search of it. As a result, the emperor announced that this continent does not exist, and today Louise started talking about witches. And yet a lot of questions will remain, even if we already know about all the enemy's actions. The maid Anna clarified where to ask Hans to take them. It was time for them to return to the estate. Let the scoundrel drown there in her own fear. The Marquise will return later. There is a recreation park ahead. It was to this park that Jaina often went on picnics with her mother as a child. The girl always avoided this place because of the death of her mother, but for some reason now she wanted to stop. The Marquise had not been here for a long time. She invited Anna to meet in an hour at the entrance to the recreation park. The maid was worried about her mistress, whether everything would be okay with her. The park was guarded and there were a lot of people around. Hans will wait for the lady here. Let him be careful and avoid the lake on the outskirts of the park. Why did he say that? The coachman hesitated. His eyes began to dart. Sweat ran down his face. According to rumors, the restless souls of the dead are found in this lake. But in their time, no one believes in such fables, but the coachman insisted that he personally saw it. Hans released the girl only after Jaina promised not to go to the lake with ghosts. This place can become dangerous for any person, and it can no longer be saved. The girl must keep her word for her own sake. Although the heroine hasn't been here for a long time, the girl still knows her way around here well. There is such a relaxed atmosphere in the park, so much childish joy, as if the vile event had never happened the previous evening. Jaina remembered herself as a child, running through the grass, catching butterflies and collecting beautiful leaves and flowers. Without noticing it, young Belchate reached a terrible lake, which seemed peaceful and wonderful to her. A wonderful place. Real peace for the soul and mind. The girl hasn't felt so good for a long time. Then a sound was heard in the bushes. A fluffy little rabbit with red eyes jumped out in front of the girl. Jaina read about them. They are frequent visitors to the park, and she wanted to pet the cutest little eared one. The Marquise began to affectionately call the fluffy one to her, and reached out to the little rabbit with her hand. How could she resist? But the little fur pom-pom sank its teeth into the watch of the main character's mother and abruptly jumped away from the girl. The Marquise ran after the little thief without thinking why this big-eared one needed her mother's watch. Jaina begged the rabbit to trip. She was not that fast and could not compete with him. The Marquise suddenly jumped on the fur thief and managed to catch him, but he was caught too close to the water. Mom's watch fell into the lake, and the furry culprit jumped in the other direction as if nothing had happened. How carelessly the Marquise lost something so valuable. The girl doesn't even know how to swim. Maybe she should ask Hans for help. But the lake may be very deep, and by the time the coachman appears, the watch may already be at the bottom. The girl was broken. How could she allow this to happen, and how upset her father was? He kept the watch so carefully. Jaina's fists clenched with anger and resentment at herself. Why is she so stupid? Then a sound was heard in the trees. Someone was clearly approaching the heroine. The girl was already thinking about ghosts. However, this was a material person in the rays of the sun. Someone's hand slid into the surface of the water and pulled out a watch from there. Then, out of nowhere, a hospitable young man came out of the shadows of the trees and handed Jaina her watch. The young man caught the object because he thought it might be important to the young girl. The Marquise was immensely grateful to him and wanted to repay him in kind. The young man's name was Dane, and it was not difficult for him at all. The guy flatly refused any gifts or services he was pleased to be useful. The Marquise had never seen him, although she knew almost all her peers in the capital and among the guests. But this young man was extraordinary. She would definitely remember him if she had met him before. The guy had a simply amazing appearance, and these red eyes, a strange name, society would definitely talk about him. The savior turned out to not be from a noble family, but this cannot be. His manners, stance, and speech spoke about this. Dane was clearly lying, his natural grace. The dignity in his every move and the special atmosphere around him cannot belong to an ordinary person. Perhaps Dane is an illegitimate bastard of a high-ranking noble family. The girl did not put pressure on this. In this place, it was as if the Marquise was in another dimension, and nothing bothered her anymore. On the shore of the lake, a beautiful and graceful deer drank water from a reservoir, and a big-eared wretch swam up to him. Then the rabbit suddenly jumped out at the deer and scared the poor guy. Since when did the big-eared hornbills become such bastards? Isn't it necessary to share water with other inhabitants? What a greedy and unworthy act. Dane called this rabbit the boss here. He hit the boy several times. He clearly didn't like the young man walking around here. What a strange situation. The Marquise didn't even know that this could be answered by the mysterious young man. After a while, Miss had to go back. She told Hans that she wanted to have another snack and go shopping. What a wonderful and interesting day, full of different emotions and impressions, and this young man, who is he? Mirana is probably already chewing on the walls, even if she continues to die from excitement. This is the least of what she deserves. Miss Jaina was met by a maid. She was told by Mirana to report as soon as she arrived, but she had better rest. She was hurt, after all. The girl asked the maid to invite Lily to her room. Mirana would probably want to find Jaina right away. The Marquise was sitting in front of the mirror. Lily came into the room and asked if her mistress liked everything at the tea party. The main character called Lily because of her mother's hair jewelry, and the maid immediately got scared. Several guests at the tea party wished for the same decorations. Lily understands what her hostess is leading to, although it's hard to believe. How is this even possible? The mistress carries a gift from a maid, wears it to a social event. At a noble tea party, other noble ladies find the gift wonderful and are willing to pay money for it. Lily simply could not believe it all. As if in a fairy tale and magic, Lily had never even dreamed of such luck. Then the door to the room, the bedroom, suddenly swung open. Mirana didn't even deign to knock. Jaina let Lily go. Mirana needs rest. Why did she come? Her natural arrogance immediately gave way to feigned pity. Jaina needed to calm her down to untie the snake's tongue. Let Mirana forgive her. The girl did not know that the shoes would be so uncomfortable. And the Marquise did not tell the guest about the meaning of color. Mirana immediately called it her fault, by the way, as they talked with Miss Louise Silver. Mirana really hoped that her dirty lie would work. Louise simply looked angrily at the Marquise and left. She still did not understand what it was connected with. Mirana immediately asked when the Marquise even appeared at the party because disguise takes time during Lister's speeches. So that means the Marquise never saw anything after saying goodbye to Jaina. Louise called her an uninvited guest, and a poor one at that. Did Louise really say that? Everything is repeated exactly. There is not a single reason to spare her. The Marquise demonstratively smashed her hand on the table. If they insult Mirana, then they insult Jaina. It's already very late today, so the main character promised to talk to Louise tomorrow. Mirana is incredibly stupid. She really believes that she can manipulate the Marchioness. The Marquise will protect her friend because she, like a sister, will get what they deserve for all the culprits. The main character hugged the liar tightly to console the poor thing. Everything will be fine, she's nearby. Let the girl not think about anything and go to her room to rest. She injured her leg. A few days later, Ellie discovered that Mirana had gone alone and asked Anna to follow her. Mirana weaves new intrigues every day, plans something, and lately she has been looking for information. The maid returned with interesting information, a news agency. It seemed that Rona was looking for something, and Ellie also handed the envelope to the mistress. It was lying under the bed of the vile reptile, probably from the agency. While Mirana was in class, she needed to quickly study its contents and return it to her place. Apparently, these documents contained information about the highest nobility of the empire. In the section with Louise, the case of Pina Malbo was mentioned. The papers said that the Marquise was aware of this, and it was also written about Sylvia that she was not on the best terms with the heroine. Everyone in high society knows about this. Mirana benefits from it, but there is nothing important here. Their family was suspected of treason. The Information Bureau was clearly slacking, and Empress Helia was clearly standing behind this clueless fool. But what was the connection between them? The envelope needs to be returned to its place, and a rumor spread about a terrible quarrel between Louise and Jaina. Now the main goal will be to isolate the poisonous Mirana from secular society before she messes things up. If you send those expensive shoes to Lindsay, she will definitely side with the main character. Today, Jaina's father returns from an expedition to explore the northern lands, and his daughter rushed into his arms. Mirana is so glad that the Mark was returned safe and sound from his trip. It's probably a little cold there. Their executioner appeared behind them. Mirana smiled through her teeth. How great it was that the Marquis had returned. Miss Vito's knowledge and skills had clearly improved. His friend would have been proud of his daughter. Miss Vito bowed and thanked the girl's father for such a pleasant and sincere compliment. Everyone may disagree, but he asked his daughter to go with him, even though he liked to relax alone. The Marquis had something for his daughter. Belchat looked for it for a long time, but since he promised, no difficulties are a hindrance. The young lady opened a small box. It was very unusual for her to receive gifts from her father in person like this. Jaina was surprised. Inside was a huge, beautiful stone called Blue Marie. The father got it with great difficulty. The gem is intended only for Jaina. Let him keep it away from Mirana. Then the Marquis also gave the girl this stone, but not one-on-one. This blue stone can only be obtained in the Duchy of Azar. The pebble was terribly rare, and it could not be bought even for a lot of money, which is happening. The Marquis is not one of those people who present something to be praised. Did he really just want to please his daughter? She and her father have definitely become closer than in the past. Then they communicated only out of necessity. Now they talk a lot. Jaina had not realized that it was so easy to get close to her father. His gift suited the Marquis very much, although the stone was beautiful in itself. Mirana's birthday is coming up. Jaina would like to give this rare stone to her as a gift. The father said that this cannot be done, although he values Mirana no less than his daughter. But giving her such a gift is like throwing it away. It's great that the girl is looking after the guest, but let her keep the decoration just for her. The Marquis will be very offended and upset if he sees this necklace on Miss Vito's neck. The heroine thanked her beloved father. He always knows how to please her. Her mother would be proud of them now. Well, how wonderful it is. Not to close yourself off, but to let people become a part of your life. Now the father did not love Mirana more than his daughter at her door. There was a bunch of gifts in multicolored wrappers. Anna touched with pleasure the new corduroy fabric that the Marquis had brought from the north. It would be a wonderful winter dress. In addition to the dress, you can also make a coat and gloves. You'll get just a bunch of wonderful images. The Marquise boasted about her father's gift. She liked the Blue Marie necklace more than all the others brought from the north. The maid said that the decoration on the girl's neck was apparently also new. Anna had never seen it before, but it was not very beautiful. The young miss said that in general it was a gift from her father. Anna immediately became shy. In general, it looks quite interesting. Jaina smiled widely. Don't let the maid worry, because this stone is called Blue Marie. Let her close the curtains in her bedroom. Anna immediately closed the curtains. She realized that this stone was in all likelihood magical. This gemstone illuminates dark places. This is its specialty. It works even if the magic is blocked. The young Marquise asked her maid for one more thing, and she went to Mirana's bedroom. She was also unpacking gifts. Mirana was trying on the hat that the heroine's father had carefully chosen for her, so that winter would come sooner. She'll have to wait. It's only spring outside. Why did Jaina come to her? Has she really already unpacked all the gifts? Then Ellie came into the room with tea. Their relationship with Mirana was still neutral. Miss Vito's birthday is coming very soon. Why don't they have a real celebration on this occasion? Is it possible that someone will come to the celebration of simpletons from the surrounding area, of course? Even despite that unpleasant incident. Every lady at the tea party appreciated Mirana's beauty. Everyone wanted to chat with her longer, but then the girl left for the estate, twisting her ankle. That birthday was simply incredible. The Marquise tried to please Mirana after Louise's false insults. There was a luxurious banquet. Of course, Mirana would really like a holiday in honor of herself. It was necessary to draw up a list of invitees. Jaina will take care of all the other preparations for her celebration, and let Mirana gain strength. The first name on her list was Sylvia Lister, who hated the main character. What a reptile. Miss was getting ready to go out and told the maid to find a light dress since they would be visiting the training center. The annual student tournament would be held at the Palace Training Center. Kazel was the most promising participant. Very soon the girl will break off her engagement with her fiancé, but for now she is still his fiancé. The Marquise reminded her personal maid about the scarf Anna prepared it at the request of Miss Belchat. Anna embroidered a scarf for Crown Prince Cam on behalf of Jaina, and the girl entered the training center. She was met by a courteous young man and immediately recognized Miss Belchate. He volunteered to take the girl to the prince. In general, the main character asked the palace employees to help with the search for Cam's heir, but one of the participants in the royal tournament responded. The attendant showed the lady the waiting room for Prince Kaselkam, and the lady thanked him. "There is no need for thanks." The young man gallantly bowed to her. For him, it was a great honor. For a noble young man, a future knight, it's nice to be able to help Miss Belchat, even if only a little. Prince Kama himself immediately appeared behind him. He had to personally meet his bride and invited her inside. The girl didn't even have time to knock. Apparently, Kasel heard her voice. He asked what that young man did to her. That young man helped Jaina find him, and that's all. In fact, that young man's name was Sirik, and he was the first opponent of the heir of Kam. The miss has something for her fiancé. She will root for him. Kasel was really looking forward to her gift from Jaina, as it should be, and he was pleased to receive a sign of attention from her. It was a new scarf with delicate embroidery. Kasel thanked the girl. With such a scarf, he feels that he will definitely win this tournament. But there's something wrong with it. The embroidery on this scarf is different from the previous ones, but who cares? It's handmade. Mistakes happen. The handkerchief was done by her maid. Since they learned embroidery together with her, their skills should not be much different. Gallant, attentive, noble, how could he turn into such a soulless monster? Kassel sat down on one knee, kissed the girl's hand, and promised to dedicate his victory to his bride. The groom looked at his chosen one with genuine admiration and a sinking heart. Still the same sweet smile, the same shining eyes, bright and pure heart. He will never be the same for her. And as soon as the groom goes through the entire tournament, he will give the white lily from the imperial wizard to Jaina. It will never wither, even if you don't take care of it. This is a long-standing royal tradition at a knight's tournament. The winner receives a magical flower and gives it to his beloved. In the past, as expected, the victory went to the heir of Kam. Mirana ordered to quickly run after the white lily. And the stupid, naive marquise ran to get her magic flower for the winner's beloved. She congratulated the young man on his victory. But her prince didn't even bother to listen to his ex-bride. He just walked past her, as if he didn't know any Jaina at all, after which he gave the white lily to Mirana, who knew about his choice from the very beginning. Then the poor girl was laughed at. It was very painful and humiliating for her. Let the two traitors get together faster, since this cannot be avoided. Jaina reminded Kassel about Mirana. He considers her beautiful. Everyone likes her appearance. The prince asked not to ask such questions. For him, she will be the most beautiful. What an outright lie. How much the young marquise had not noticed before. Kassel assured her that there was no more beautiful Jaina in this world. The heir of Kama apologized for such open confessions. He was just nervous before the tournament. The girl had a request for him. His bride asked that at the next ball her groom become Mirana's dance partner. It was not as difficult to say as the marquise thought. It would be better if it were so, but her fiancé flatly refused. He didn't think for a second. He immediately blurted out a refusal. But this is the guest's first debut. Everything will go well after all. He will be the best partner for Mirana. Kassel sighed dejectedly. He complimented the marquise, but she still remained dissatisfied. He would not fulfill her request. Even though her fiancé finds it difficult to fulfill her request, the marquise just wants everything to go perfectly. After all, she doesn't feel sorry for anything for her friend. She, like her sister, will be nervous and worried. Her fiancé will handle this best, and it is with him that Mirana will relax and feel comfortable. And only Kassel can entrust Jaina with such an important and significant mission for her, no one else. Kazel looked at her with his big puppy eyes. Why was the girl upsetting him so much? She forgot about the oath they took in childhood. Didn't the young and pure heirs of the two richest duchies then vow to be together forever? What could be more important than this? And it was this young man who destroyed this promise by so cruelly betraying Jaina. If not he, then who would accompany her lady? The girl was tired. The marquise will attend the ball with her father. Let her fiancé not worry and be Mirana's partner for one evening. This time the girl convinced Duke Cam. Next time there will be no need to beg. He will run after her. Kassel froze and looked at her, not understanding anything, just like the girl herself when he pierced her with his sword. Well, it was time for the main character to take her place in the ranks of the spectators, and now the start of the tournament will be announced. The main sponsor of the nightly royal tournament, the second prince, entered the stands. After the end of his speech, the tournament began. Prince Kazel will be the first to speak. His rival will be Sirik. Their skills and strengths were unequal. Their battle was like a fight between an adult and a child. Kazel was no match for him, and they both knew it. Due to the high temperature, the tournament ended quickly. Anna was delighted with the fighting spectacles. The heroine adored the sincere delight of her friend. Young society ladies shouted the names of the most popular knights from the podium, each wanting to attract attention to themselves. The last rival of Duke Com was a certain Aiden Laporte. This is exactly the rotten freak who stabbed Anna to death before her eyes. And this bastard is still alive! The Marquise was indignant with rage. Anna did not understand why her mistress was behaving this way. Jaina shouted from the stands for Kazel to fight him to the death. The girl was rooting for him and asked him to destroy his opponent. In the past, her fiancé won an unconditional victory over the red-haired bastard. The Marquise wanted his blood and suffering. Aiden went up to the stands. Some man called him. The main character did not understand why that freak was going to the stands. The red-haired idiot boasted that Kazel could not defeat him. His skills were incomparable. There was simply no one better than him. How is this even possible? He simply radiated vileness. His voice, his body, everything caused a gag reflex. Then the heroine had to close her eyes, but nothing helped. She had to take control of her heart, otherwise it would take over her mind. Her Anna, the last thing she saw in her life was her masters, whom she obscured with herself. Then before her eyes, there was only red, the color of the blood of her Anna, whose heart was pierced by the blade of this degenerate. And Jaina will do anything for the sake of her maid. The Marquise stroked her hand. She should not die before her mistress, the maid was worried. Everything should take its course, but it would be great if this freak accidentally slipped and fell on the assassin's blade. When Aiden officially becomes a knight, it will be more difficult to tear off his limbs. The young man noted that Kama is not the same today. He is famous for the accuracy of his blows, but not today. And the movements were always well calculated. Today, the vaunted prince was clearly out of shape. His acquaintance asked Aiden to turn around. Aiden turned around. It's just her. Kazel is a guy. His bride just wants to look beautiful. She's not the geeks type anyway. He prefers innocent sweethearts who cry with every wrong breath. He's just disgusting. This vile degenerate is definitely a copy of Mirana in male form. They would definitely get along. Absolute ignorance. A person not burdened with intelligence. It is difficult to imagine something more disgusting. Apart from the main scoundrel, of course, Aiden is far from her. He is just an insecure, pimply coward. He also dares to address him and Anna so impudently, if it weren't for the plan, the Marquise herself would have entered the ring with him and stabbed him. Anna noticed Aiden's impudence, how he dared to stand right in front of her mistress and talk about his tastes. Despite everything, the main character had plans for this freak. The girl decided to invite him to Mirana's holiday. The assassin in the uniform of a maid ran her thumb across her throat. Maybe Anna should get rid of him quietly. Isn't that lovely? While the mistress dissuaded Anna from bloody reprisal against Aiden, the tournament ended. Kazel became its winner. Crown Prince Kama was handsome. The image of a knight suited him no less than that of a manager of a noble dynasty. The second prince respects the future knights of the nation. They dedicate themselves to training. He congratulated all the participants. Jaina invited Mirana to cheer up her fiancé, but she refused, citing the fact that she had to study. The winner must invite his lady to come down. The tournament organizer has given the final order. Kazel fell on one knee in front of the heroine. This year he gives her a lily. Next year there will be a rose. Kazel smiled so much, handing the flower to the girl. His feelings were sincere. But today he smiled much brighter than usual, which raised a lot of questions for the main character in the past. She would have received only a white flower. On the way home, the girl looked at her lily with interest, because that white-haired scoundrel from the village had received it then. But now, for some reason, everything is different. Her fiancé does not want to be interested in Mirana, although he should. Initially, the main character planned to bring Mirana and Kazel together and announce to everyone about the vile meanness of these two in order to show their true colors. And then she would have the role of an all-forgiving lady who would accept them both. What could be more important than their promise? What's the point of it? However, now Jaina has a very strong feeling that her fiancé does not love Mirana at all. The maid offered to put the white lily in a vase, but the Marquise ordered to put the flower in the closet, where it would not catch the eye. It was magical, and still would not wither. A question burned in the eyes of attentive Anna, but then she never asked it. What happened between Kossel and her mistress? The carriage drove through the streets of the capital and arrived at a recreation park. The girl felt much better near this lake when there was chaos in her head. Jaina would really like her personal maid to come with her too, which is what the silly girl is so afraid of. Anna flatly refused to get out of the carriage if something suddenly happened, then let the lady scream loudly. Only to save her life, the faithful maid is ready to approach this lake with ghosts. The maid's reaction was strange, but the more the main character walked around the park, the lighter her soul became. There's still so much ahead, only a couple of battles have been won, and her war is not over yet. Anna could not be persuaded to go out and walk through the park. She was too afraid of the ghosts of the lake. Well, what ghosts can there be here? Silence and beauty, how wonderfully the water shines under the sun's rays. This place became truly special for the main character. Her soul found peace here. A strange, unhealthy picture appeared before Jaina's eyes. The unfamiliar Dane was belligerently knocked out by a white rabbit with his fluffy paw. Jane extended his hand to the face of the long-eared terrorist and offered him friendship, because he is such a good rabbit. Ushastik, without thinking twice, sank his teeth into the thin finger of the main character's savior. This rabbit guy is just like a rabbit. Having beaten the charming young man to his heart's content, the rabbit ran around the girl and began to tick away into the forest thicket. The girl didn't understand why she should allow this furry, impudent person to bite her. It would be easier to just drive him away. The young man was bleeding. But if Dane forcibly scares him away, the little bastard could get hurt and get hurt. From behind a tree, that same little ear peeks out at them. Maybe he wants to make friends after all. And I understand that the young people are not enemies. But the white, fluffy assassin did not emit even a hint of a friendly motive at all. Dane came to his senses after the beating, and was very glad to see Jay again in this park. The girl herself was pleased with this strange guy. Although the young people only met twice, the heroine was very comfortable with him and calm. "Why don't people come here? It's charming here," Dane agreed. "The young man comes here every day. No, he's definitely an illegitimate son. Next time he'll need to grab a snack. Jay wants to see rock jumping. Dane used to like to do that. It's pretty funny." Immediately, the young man picked up a flat stone. It was important that the cobblestone was precisely shaped for sliding. After which Dane launched it across the water surface. The cobblestone made several jumps and fell to the bottom. The girl happily clapped her hands at how he succeeded. The girl also wants to learn this. Then, unexpectedly for everyone, the main character screamed heart-rendingly. Someone attacked her and attacked her from behind. The culprit was the white rabbit. The boss, the big-eared bastard, was simply waiting for the right moment to give blows to the girl as well. The fluffy baby was dangling amusingly on the girl's hair, which he grabbed with his teeth. Why does the rabbit attack? Let him give up. Her hair is stronger. In addition, the girl's beautiful and durable resin hair receives expensive care every day in the form of all kinds of oils, serums, and masks. Such an enemy is too tough for even rabbits. Jaina began to shake her hair in different directions, trying to throw off her attacker. Let him immediately stop his attack. The long-eared pest flew straight into the lap of the main character. He looked charming and cute when he was not trying to kill her. Dane has never seen a rabbit so peaceful. It's actually exactly the same rabbit. The little-eared one doesn't look like itself. What a nice fur pom-pom he has, and what soft, fluffy fur. How can you be so aggressive in such a body? He should not offend other people and animals. This is wrong and ugly. The rabbit must behave decently. The big-eared one just snorted. Today there will be a party on the occasion of Mirana's birthday since the very morning. All the servants of the Belchot house have been busy with preparations for the celebration. The chambermaid is responsible for organizing the holiday, so everything went smoothly. Not the most magnificent holiday, but the honor of the Marquis will not be disgraced. Jaina felt relaxed and not worried about how today's appointment would go. She didn't care whether Mirana would like the holiday or not, whether she could please her. All the servants were fussing and running around the family estate, but not the Marchioness herself. All the service personnel lined up to receive orders for the festive banquet. In the past, the entire formal hall was filled with seasonal flowers. The dishes included the rarest ingredients and a bunch of expensive bracelets and cufflinks from the workshop for the guests. The estate required a huge number of staff due to the crowd of invited people they had to be borrowed from Prince Cam. The maid looked approvingly at her mistress. It was time for her to change clothes for the planned event. For the Marquis, this is the most ordinary party. But for the greedy and envious Mirana, this is the whole event of the century. This party was very different from the last one, and the list of invited guests, Aidan Laporte was supposed to appear at it. And then the reptile used the name of her family to gather higher nobility. While Anna worked hard on the heroine's thick and long hair, Jaina took out a box of Blue Marie. And the stone was fake. The heroine prepared a brilliant prank for two parasites, Sylvia and Mirana. How fun it would be. After all, it is easy to recognize a fake if the stone does not show its properties at night, but Mirana will throw it away before she can check it. Jaina congratulates her friend on her day with all her heart. She has prepared a special gift for the girl. Mirana didn't even try to hide her dissatisfaction with the necklace and immediately turned away from it. But for the sake of playing at being a kind and bright lady, she still put it around her neck. In the past, Jaina also gave her a Blue Marie necklace. Her father put a lot of effort into getting it, and the bastard just threw it away. The stone was found in her trash. Then the main character was very worried that she did not agree with the gift for Mirana, while she ruined her life. This time only a couple of people knew about Blue Marie. A mistake is unacceptable. What a pity that in other people's eyes this stone was useless. And for the heroine herself, this gem will serve as a guarantor and will play its role in the future. Since past experience has made it possible to find another use for such a valuable specimen, this time the fake will receive the fake very symbolically. How nice it is to know about some things in advance and be able to correct your own mistakes. Such a priceless gift from the great dragon, not to the family, but how many it will save now. Well, it's time to show Blue Marie to her viewers and for Jaina to start her show. The invited guests began to gather in the hall and congratulate the hero of the occasion. A crowd of Sylvia Lister's henchmen approached Mirana, who apparently told them to target the heroine, and threw Mirana to find out her weaknesses. Mirana couldn't wait to meet Sylvia herself. They both hated Jaina. Their tandem could turn out to be strong. To begin with, Jaina needed to leave Mirana and Cassel alone. Even if this did not work, she would have to come up with another plan. Why couldn't you be happy with what you were given? The Marquise family loved Mirana so much. They gave her so much. The girl basked in attention, universal love, warm care. Absolutely everything was given to her without reserve. Miss Vito shone at social parties in the best and most expensive dresses from leading designers. The best jewelry. It all made her so happy. Just like now, it is better for the heroine to stay away from Sylvia's singers so as not to have dialogues with them. Then Lindsay Felton, who was also invited to the party in Mirana's honor, approached the bored girl. The eyes of Viconda's niece shone with delight. She was grateful for her invitation. The girl did not get to attend events very often. She was very shy. In addition to an invitation to a social event with a bunch of invited nobility, the main character gave Lindsay that very beautiful pair of shoes. Lindsay and Jaina became close, and Miss Lindsay attended this hypocritical celebration not for the sake of the birthday girl, but for the sake of Jaina. Miss Lily also appeared at the birthday party, who was also happy for her friend. Banquets at the estate were always amazing. Why arrange such a feast for the sake of a low-grade envious liar that if you don't give her, it won't hide her rotten soul? Jaina has done too much for this scoundrel. Mirana even got along with Sylvia Lister's support group. But this is an obvious alliance of two envious women. The young ladies were outraged. How can you be so hypocritical? A commoner has not a single drop of self-respect. Although Mirana is truly fantastically stupid, she still knows about the relationship between the Marquise and Sylvia. The girls laughed at obvious attempts at friendship against Jaina. A wonderful sound for the heroine's ears, then Mirana suddenly appeared behind them. The white-haired lady thanked Miss Lindsay and Miss Cito for appearing at her honorary celebration. The girls handed over gifts to the maids. Mirana will go to greet the rest of the guests. Jaina offered to do it together, but the scoundrel refused. Of course, next to the Marquise, it is difficult to spread rumors about the Marquise herself. Everything is obvious here. Among these guests, there are still so many that need to be processed. So many that need to be whispered about the cruel friend and the innocent visiting girl. But the Marquise was no longer so worried about this, since Mirana would never again comprehend the influence that she had in her past life. No matter how hard she tries, no matter how she fawns over the court nobility and noble aristocrats, her fate in secular society is sealed. The Marquise was still amazed at how much poison and rot there was in this rubbish, watching her gestures and false facial expressions. It was time to stop this carousel of slop for a while, time to start the first part of this evening. Let Mirana go with the Marchioness, since the maid reported the arrival of Prince Cassel to her estate. Mirana gave everyone her deceitful smile. Then the main character noticed that there was no longer a necklace on her neck. But where was it? The girl silently took Mirana to the arriving guests. Cassel was glad to see Jaina. The red-haired bastard yawned boredly. Prince Kama saw the sapphire hairpin and was glad that the bride was wearing his gift, but she did not even remember that it was from him. And what is Aiden doing here? It was impossible to reveal the fact that it was the heroine herself who added him to the guest list. Jaina decided to put tinsel on Aiden, calling his skills at the tournament impressive in order to draw Mirana's attention to him. And his appearance does not lag behind his talent, but Cassel defeated him in just 5 minutes. It was a record. Aiden looked at ours with his usual stupid expression. Cassel congratulated Miss Vito and introduced his fellow chivalry student, Sir Aiden Laporte. Mirana is very pleased with the congratulations of 2 such noble young men. Her name is Mirana Vito, and she is glad to see them at the holiday. Aiden immediately froze. Did a beautiful angel from heaven appear before him? This is a gift to him for his magnificence and talents. This is what the normal reaction to Mirana looked like, which Jaina expected from her fiancé, and this mug froze next to her and did not leave. As soon as Mirana left, Jaina also wanted to leave the guys and go in search of Lilia. The Marquise wished the guys to have a good time at the holiday, but not too much, and not to forget to devote their time to the hero of the occasion. But the girl was rudely grabbed by the sleeve of her dress by the idiot Aiden and wanted to ask the miss a couple of questions. Cassel was dumbfounded. Who the hell was with them just now? Jaina rolled her eyes. The girl introduced herself. This is her holiday after all. Aiden became furious in an instant. He was not deaf. He was interested in other details about this miss. Then Cassel said something in his ear with a steely voice. Aiden came to his senses and immediately apologized. The girl accepted the apology. If Aiden is so interested in Mirana, let him stop being a coward here in the corner and ask her questions personally. But of course, the cowardly and envious young man only looked at Mirana from the side with loving eyes. Miss Belchate was extremely disappointed with this idiot. He was just watching her from the side, but should have provoked new rumors about Moran. The bets were made in vain, so this redhead is impudent and crucifies himself in front of his friends while no one hears, since in real life he is simply worthless. Cassel couldn't stand why his fiancée was looking at Aiden like that. Was she really interested in him? The very thought of it was disgusting. In fact, his fiancée wanted to set Aiden up with Mirana and was just watching to see if they were suitable for each other. His character was rotten, but he was an excellent warrior. So Crown Prince Kama recommends his comrade in arms as a partner for Miss Vito. They are sure to get along well. Mirana's appearance received high marks, but men have high standards. Cassel at the tournament called Mirana a beauty who makes you fall in love with him. Mirana flirted with absolutely every man, but most of all she was most determined only for one specific one. Naturally, her chosen one was the most influential man in the empire, the second crown prince. However, the second prince liked girls who were the complete opposite of Mirana, even becoming the adornment of the elite. The girl ran after him for a long time. While the main character was recalling how the relationship between the liar and the second prince developed, Cassel was asked to leave for an important conversation by one of the estate servants. Having overcome all obstacles, Mirana starved the poor man into falling in love with her, cutting off real contenders for his heart. Once Cassel's place was empty, Jaina also decided to walk around the hall. It was becoming too noisy and crowded. Then came Mirana's most desired guest, Sylvia Lister. What a union! If they were set against each other, there would be a real slaughterhouse. Sylvia brought a whole bunch of gifts for Mirana. She comes from the richest family and could not deprive her friend of gifts. Belchate immediately came to her furious hater and thanked her for her visit. Sylvia's face immediately changed. Sylvia immediately asked why the young lady's first party under Jaina's full sponsorship was so pathetic. Is it possible that the house of the ancient Belchate family is forced to experience financial difficulties? Jaina does not understand the guest Sylvia personally thinks that the Belchate are greatly neglecting Mirana, and they have just confirmed that they are sponsoring the holiday. How could a sponsor be so stingy with the first celebration of a young lady in the capital, where a lot of nobility live? Jaina clarified whether Sylvia was sure of her words or had not yet fully realized their meaning. Mirana decided to interrupt their argument. The snake hissed that this is not true at all. The Marquis is trying so hard for her, and especially Jaina. She is very grateful to her. Mirana said this with the most humble face possible, as expected. These two cheap actresses were worth each other. If Sylvia had organized a holiday, she would have done everything to the highest standard. Everything would have been luxuriously decorated, even if only for Mirana, even if her status is such a high scale. In other words, the envious woman voices the fact that Jaina should have spent more money on Mirana's celebration. This is true. This fool also emphasized that her family is richer than Belchadi. Sylvia talks about the money that her vile family earned from usury. There is no lower occupation in the world. These words should have come from the lips of her friend Lilia. Sylvia immediately broke into a scream, knowing full well that she had no idea, but was an insignificant dummy. After the tea party, Lily sharpened her grudge against Miss Lister, who is desperately trying to convince the whole world that she is not dirt, but the richest noble. Let Sylvia calm down immediately. Her family dynasty is running this business successfully. Why be so upset? Sylvia is not angry at all. Her family is influential only in the financial industry. She is also an important pillar of the empire's economy. But the family clan is truly the richest. The pseudo-nobles were not distinguished by anything outstanding, so they took up the most primitive business. And everyone knew this. That's why Sylvia was so vulnerable. Everyone knew that no matter what she pretended to be, she would always be a false nobility. Lister was seething with anger, even with her family's money. She always felt like a waste in the social circle. She was not allowed to forget about it. Since their business cannot be called ethical or noble, they took the last money from the poor, intimidated, threatened, and beat even girls and children. In that case, have Mistress Sylvia host the next event and invite Jaina to judge and compare. Sylvia smiled tightly. She just wanted to spoil things. And now she had driven herself into a situation where she would have to make a lot of effort for the sake of another person, which was generally unnatural for her. Mirana and Sylvia immediately sang together, waiting for the heroine to leave. Jaina knew about this and decided to eavesdrop on their conversation. Sylvia immediately began to sing about what a terrible friend the Marchioness was to deprive such a beautiful young miss. Lister showered Mirana with expensive gifts to make Jaina look like a cheapskate. Sylvia immediately chirped that she was extremely upset by the neglect that Jaina bestowed on her. By the way, what kind of gift did Mirana receive from Belchit? She should have given something clearly better than Lister herself. Jaina gave a necklace. How could it be, after all? It was the young debutante's first birthday in the capital. How can you call yourself a sponsor and give such a modest gift? Everyone in the social circle will confirm that this is unconscionable. Just as people make the mistake of calling her a sweet lady, Jaina only mocks the simpleton and gives her black shoes and useless gifts. One of the girls asked if the same necklace she wore at the very beginning was a gift, and it was, but then Mirana took it off because it didn't match the dress. The lady thought that the poor thing was wearing it as a sign of respect. What a low-grade gift. Miss Sylvia Lister, encouraged by a new stream of venom towards her most inveterate rival, asked what the necklace was. Mirana obediently handed the Blue Marie to the poisonous guests, and only Lister could understand what kind of decoration it was. After all, this is the same necklace that Sylvia herself begged from her father, but never received, since the reserves of this stone were bought by Empress Helia. As soon as the pathetic, envious woman comes to her senses from shock, she will not even dare to mention that Jaina is neglecting Mirana. Few people even know about this precious stone because of its value. Giving such a treasure to an ordinary girl from the village is simply unthinkable. Somehow Lister felt dizzy. It would be better for her to return to the estate. Jaina gave an incredible gift. Sylvia was the loser again. Sylvia and her minions quickly retreated, leaving Mirana with such a stupid expression on her face. Now it was Miss Belchate's turn. She was already beginning to like this evening. One scoundrel was defeated and humiliated. Suddenly, her friends were ahead of her. Could Miss Vito pay attention to Lindsay and Lilia? The girls were positively beaming. Miss Belchate's true and faithful friends surrounded the deceitful creature and did not give him the opportunity to retreat. Lilia has always been distinguished by noble frankness, and asked why a visiting low-class girl was spreading rumors about the one to whom she was indebted for the rest of her life. Then the girls decided to stand up for their friend and warn Mirana about the consequences of such decisions. Mirana immediately shed tears, which is why the girls were so cruel to her. but her acting didn't impress anyone else. This is a simple question. There is no need to organize another circus. Jaina put her whole soul into this handmade necklace. What a disgusting thing. Mirana began to open up. Everything was according to plan. The girls could not appreciate the Blue Marie, but they knew the value of the gift for Jaina. Mirana stammered that there was a terrible misunderstanding. She had never treated the Marquise's gift badly. Miss Vito considers those around her to be dumber than herself. You shouldn't mindlessly open your mouth in high society. She's not in her stable where she can piggyback. Niece Viconda performed well. Now it was Lilia's turn. She, too, endured this mess for a long time. Confident of her success and that everyone was led by her tears and big eyes, the liar was dumbfounded. Mirana never expected that at least someone wouldn't like it. But here there was such open reproach and insult. It's also impossible she's an angel. Lilia began to imitate Mirana herself. Oh, something twisted her leg. How painful it was for her. A glass of champagne successfully poured over the birthday girl's dress. How awkward Lilia is. It's all her ankle. The girls will fix everything now. What a ridiculous misunderstanding. Miss Lily brought the plateau to the lying liar and whispered something in her ear, but the heroine no longer heard it. If none of the necessary spectators for Mirana were here, the reptile would have already grabbed the knife. Or she would have set one of the men against the Marquise's friends so as not to dirty her own hands by abandoning herself as an unfortunate victim. The main character watched what was happening with interest. She did not expect such stamina and courage from her girls. Mirana's piggy squeal was heard throughout the hall. She would immediately tell Jaina everything, and she would kick these friends out of the estate. That is, Miss Vito is going to tell the party organizer that Lilia accidentally spilled water. How sneaky she is. The ladies are very disappointed. The face of an angel. The soul is so rotten. Well, the girls, well, they made me happy. In the past, Jaina always protected Mirana. Now she doesn't care. There was no punishment that she didn't deserve. Then Aiden appeared. Mirana's dress was ruined, and he was ready to send a similar one as a gift. Mirana ignored the red-haired idiot and only asked where Jaina was. She was with Cassel. The coldness should have repulsed this idiot, but he remained true to his aspiration. He simply met a kindred spirit. The arrogant and annoying young man simply froze silently and looked after his departing happiness. As soon as the lying bastard's birthday party came to an end, Jaina began to see off all the guests. Being among the guests, the heroine felt Mirana's gaze on her. She immediately grabbed onto her. Miss Cito and Miss Felton humiliated poor and unfortunate Mirana. Where was she even? Why didn't she protect her? These two girls drove Mirana into a corner and started saying terrible and cruel things. What a mediocre game. The insignificant liar looked into the heroine's eyes, trying to press on pity and guilt for her friends. Probably Mirana simply misunderstood them. The girl was shocked. Jaina is on their side or something. Actually, Belchide is obliged to believe her. Mirana always took Jaina for granted. She was always distinguished by her shamelessness. They also poured champagne on her, of course. The Marquise believes her friend Jaina took her to the living room so that she would definitely cross paths with Castle. Mirana left the girl in a secluded room to meet with her fiancé, and she went away to talk with someone. Vito asked her best friend to come back quickly. She felt so lonely and empty here. Jaina was already tired of connecting these two, but it would be better to do it under control. Exhausted from a conversation with a certain Mr. Paras, Cassel walked along the corridor. He had no face. Let him go to the living room, and Jaina will bring cold drinks there. As soon as Cassel walked inside, Anna came into the living room with 2 glasses of juice. This was the beginning of their love in the past. The maid then tried to gently hint to the girl about the vile plans of her guest, but she could not even imagine such a thing. Jaina still remembered the icy look of disgust towards her right before her execution. Literally in an instant, he betrayed and doomed his best friend and fiancé to death for the sake of this creature. So that's not the case this time. The maid reported that they were sitting there awkwardly in silence and drinking their juice. It didn't work. Anna tried to make the environment more comfortable and cozy for them, but these two don't even look each other in the eyes. The Marquise expected such an outcome, but it was still worth a try. There were still chances for them to get closer. Meanwhile, the 2 young men moved nervously around the room and waited for Miss Jaina to clarify. The guys immediately jumped up. Why did Jaina leave them? It's just that Cassel will accompany Mirana to the ball, and they should get along. A few days later, Anna brought the fake Blue Marie to the lady. Ellie said that Mirana threw it in the trash. Even if you don't know about the value of this stone, doing this with a gift is low and disgusting. everything is as always. The maid had to get rid of the fake without leaving any traces, so that there would be no problems. And why did her lady choose a dress made of high-quality silk for a trip to the park? Jaina immediately remembered the big-eared maniac this furry one had a weakness. The rabbit loved to lie around and bask on soft things, and the dress that Anna offered was made of rough fabric. Jaina intends to purchase several yards of Warzel silk and make several dresses. Anna glared suspiciously. The Belle-Chatov carriage set off towards the young lady's favorite park. She deserved a rest after a brilliant performance. The Marquise spread a soft blanket on the fresh grass and placed 2 wicker baskets with treats on it. Sunny day, perfect weather for a picnic. Young Dane slept peacefully in the shade of a tree. Was he really that tired? Jaina took the soft, fluffy ball in her hands and told him to go in the other direction for now, and not wake the young man. To subdue this vandal, Jaina brought with her the best hay in the entire empire. The rabbit had to appreciate it. Jaina opened the served dish. On a beautiful plate lay juicy golden hay with a fragrant smell. The dissatisfied rabbit began to slowly chew the Marquise's dish, anger blazing in his eyes. Literally a second, and the fluffy boar hits the plate with his strong hind legs. Apparently, it doesn't taste very good to him. The Marquise tried very hard to find an approach to the little animal, but to no avail. The long-eared oppressor looked interestedly into the basket of sandwiches. Literally a second passed before Jaina turned away, and a pot-bellied carcass was already lying in front of her, and the baskets with treats for Dane were empty. Why did this brat eat someone else's food? Let him immediately spit it out. How could he do such a thing in the first place? At this point, the Marquise could no longer stand it and began to shake the furry glutton and swear at him, thereby waking up young Dane. The young man called out to her. The girl immediately betrayed the fur thief. This parasite gobbled up all their food supplies. Sleepy Dane was thinking about something. His thoughts were elsewhere, as were his feelings. But a funny battle between a cute girl and a fur terrorist distracted him, and the young man became inspired. This fool will not die from such food. The Marquise told the rabbit to sit and wait for her on the blanket. Now let him spit it out quickly. The lady had other plans for these sandwiches. What an impudence he was. Maybe somewhere there is a herb growing that can cleanse this fool's stomach. We need to look for it. 3 leaves and a thin stem. This herb causes vomiting and is called tarn grass. Dane knew about it. The young man picked up the obviously fatter animal. There was no need to look for anything. This rabbit is omnivorous. He knows medicinal herbs, the diet of animals. This is not generally known information. The rabbit also ate Dane's food. Who is he? Where does he come from such a range of knowledge? Such a turn of phrase? Such a calmness wise from experience? Although a rabbit vomiting was a more likely event than time travel, things looked different now. There was no point in worrying about this furry, impudent man. Let Dane sit down. The girl still has cookies left. The rabbit immediately beamed. Usually the young man does not eat what is offered to him, but he will accept it with pleasure from Jaina. The charming young man was also persecuted, a common event among the nobility. The puzzle is increasingly being put together. By the way, a real festival will be organized on National Day. Jay has been to them before. Dane had never been there before. He was very interested to take a look. He had heard a lot about this celebration. The Marquise went to it every year with Anna and Cassel. She ate street food and watched colorful performances. And to the most mesmerizing spectacle, when magicians launch stunning fireworks in the sky. Sounds great. Dane has never had the opportunity to attend such a festival. Hasn't he been to the capital for a long time? The National Day Festival is the largest event in the empire. It is difficult not to attend it while living in the capital. Dane is not sure that he can ask such a thing so suddenly, but the Marquise would not want to go with him to the festival. It will be his first and last time there. If everything is clear the first time, then the last time raises a lot of questions about what this even means.
How much is hidden in it, and where to get the necessary answers to the main character's questions.
The Marquise fell silent abruptly, realizing what he had just said. Dane would understand that if the lady refused, he did not want to burden her. The young man spoke so carelessly about his last time, how much pain and despair he had already gone through. After all, just the thought of death makes the skin crawl. Jaina has already experienced this feeling and remembers it well. Jaina was very fond of Dane. She would not want him to be sad, suffer, and especially die. The feeling of imminent death was not new for her. She immediately grabbed the young man's hand. She would happily go with him. Dane's hand was incredibly cold, despite the summer weather. He really wanted to see the fireworks. He would definitely like it. Miss Belchate promised to show and tell the young man everything, and they should definitely try street food. The closer the national celebration got, the more crowded the streets of the capital became. Since this day was the most important celebration in the empire, the sellers worked tirelessly at their stalls. For the children of the aristocracy, the most important event was, of course, the ball in the palace of His Highness. And the most fierce women's competition in the capital was the choice of outfit for the ball. Mirana chose the Ceylon boutique. Finally, the time has come for her triumphant debut. She will do a great job. The Marquise agrees with this. How funny this stubborn and greedy lady still hopes for something. Jaina dutifully nodded her head. What dress to choose? Mirana wanted the most beautiful and expensive one. She couldn't wait to buy everything. The lady flew headlong to the Ceylon boutique, confident in her irresistibility and quick reprisal against Belchat. The boutique employees greeted the Marquise. It was their honor to choose dresses for her and Miss Vito for the ball. It was Mrs. Ceylon herself, the owner of the boutique. Jaina asked to first choose a dress for Mirana, because this is not a debut. For young and noble ladies, the first debut means a lot. This is where their path in society begins. It is on this day that they create the first and most important impression of themselves among the local aristocracy. If a girl does something wrong, then she will forever be assigned the title of the one who screwed up at the debut. Therefore, it was necessary to dress Mirana in a dress that does not suit her. The Marquis of Belchate invested so much in the young miss, but she could not live up to expectations. Mirana began to show off all sorts of different dresses, an elegant celestial dress, a lace yellow dress. But every dress suited her. The plan threatened to fall apart. But then the Marquise's gaze fell on the desired outfit. The girl herself didn't really understand fashion. She just looked at the price tags and other society ladies. It was urgent to do something with her image. She should not blind everyone with her beauty. A cute pink dress that suited Mirana so perfectly because she hated the color pink. The Marquise immediately asked the staff to remove the dress from the display case and bring it to be tried on. Jaina knows that the girl doesn't like pink, but this dress suits her so well. Mirana's eyes flashed furiously. The girl began to breathe quickly and heavily. Her ears were ringing, and she no longer heard or saw anyone. The beauty's appearance was disfigured by a manic face. It was even difficult to recognize her. Then, for the entire boutique, Mirana screamed furiously and grabbed her head. Even Jaina did not expect this. Let him remove this dress immediately. Mirana hates it. After that, she could not calm down. Mirana was shaking all over. She lost control over herself and over the situation, this time for real. The eyes were wild and empty, as if the girl had been transported somewhere with her mind and body. Jaina began flipping through numerous catalogs of new styles and popular designs for the season. The Marquise gave clear instructions for sewing her friend's dress. Everything had to be perfect, just like herself. Ceylon asked whether the young lady would definitely take the dress without trying it on, since it was for an imperial ball. Everything was fine. Jaina trusted her mistress, and besides, her guest was in such a state that she clearly had no time for fittings, since Mirana was still in a stupor, and Belchat took such touching care of her ward. The hostess agreed. The owner of the boutique understood everything and will do everything possible. The Marquise also asked to change the color of her dress to green. Of all the dark green shades, Mrs. Ceylon will choose exactly the one that will best suit her resinous curls. Ceylon sounded promising, but the girl had already worn this dress in the past. No matter how much a lady trusts a tailor, you cannot buy a dress without trying it on. But the Marquise cannot deprive Mirana. She is so dear to her. Mrs. Ceylon noted that the young Marquise is very worried and cares about Mirana. She chose the dress herself, just so as not to bother her in this state. The owner of the boutique definitely spreads these rumors among her wealthy clients, which is very useful. The girl drank hot tea and had already come to her senses. She apologized for having to worry about her. Well, here comes the usual fake Mirana. She is here again ready for her plan to exterminate the Belchat clan. The Marquise discussed the option with the owner of the boutique without the girl herself. Given Mirana's condition, how would she like this version of her dress? Mirana picked up the sketch of the dress. It looked simply gorgeous. Ceylon did her best. The girl is sure that she does not want to look at him in person. Mirana refused. She needed to rest. Jaina knew that the scoundrel didn't like pink, but to that extent, she definitely screamed the word mom. Was she really talking about Baroness Vito? Looking back, the Marquise knew absolutely nothing about the mother of this reptile. And this unhealthy hatred of the color pink is definitely connected with the Baroness. We need to find out everything we can. Mirana asked if the Marquise sewed a dress for herself. Why did she go with her Jaina learns to sew from examples of other works? She also needed to make sure that the liar did not choose anything stunning for herself, because in the case of Miss Vito, the dress serves as her tool and leverage over others. Their conversation was interrupted by an impudent screaming madam who ordered them to close their mouths and not find fault with her dress. The girl timidly answered a certain Rose that she never found fault with her image, what came over her in general. The second girl frowned. She generally knows fashion better and knows perfectly well what to do with dresses and how. The Marquise recognized them immediately, Sister Rose Ray and Heifer Ray. What an unexpected meeting and how timely. Mirana immediately hid behind Jaina, but the girls had already noticed the same lady with silver hair. She was pleased to meet you and introduced herself as Lady Mirana Vito, daughter of a baron in the Southern Valley. The girls were fascinated by the angelic beauty of Mirana. As always, there was no originality in the plot. Heifer Ray's reaction was no different from the others. She simply squealed with admiration. Beauty is still an amazing power. Heifer Ray was the older sister and introduced her younger one named Rose. The girls were very similar. The girl stammered that although she did not know Mirana, their meeting was dictated by fate itself. Heifer Ray tearfully asked Mirana to become her muse, even though it was sudden and inappropriate. Heifer Ray had a talent for design, so communicating with her was quite useful for Mirana, if she herself wanted it. Mirana doubted the girl's abilities, but she really wanted to hear more about how magnificent she was. The Marquise said that being a muse is very respectful and pleasant. Not everyone is given such an opportunity. Here Rose intervened. Miss Belchate should not overpraise her sister, much less put her on a par with truly talented people. Here Heifer sharply pushed her little sister away. She shouldn't stand in her way. What a girl. Why doesn't the muse have a chat with her designer in a more private setting? Heifer already sees a lot of images on her. The poor fellow, the younger sister, was left alone in the corner with a stone face. What a warm relationship the sisters have. The first time Mirana met her at the Imperial Ball in the past, Heifer was a mediocre designer with mediocre work. However, with the appearance of Mirana in her life, her dresses began to have a certain style and something special. Her outfits, made for the vile scoundrel, became a real trend in the capital. She received the title of a great designer, moving Ceylon. The presence of her fan became real wings for Mirana. She adored praise. It is quite justified that the flower of the empire dictated fashion for the residents of the capital, so it further strengthened its position and influence. Having seen Miss Vito in the Ceylon boutique, the daughter of Count Ray was inspired by new images and wanted to make her a dress for the ball. The designer promised that every woman in the capital would dream of wearing what Mirana wore. She would become the flower of society. The ignoramus heard the cherished words, the flower of society. Mirana's thirst for power and universal admiration was akin to obsession. Mirana began to spend all her time in the circle of the young designer. The role of a muse was her calling. These two were simply inseparable. Both sensed the benefit in each other and could not miss it. The Marquise had already seen all this. It was difficult to surprise her, although in the past she had never understood their union. The appearance of a corset in the outfit was especially discussed. Heifer used it to emphasize the muse's figure. From that moment on, a thin body and thin waist became the main pillars of female beauty, thanks to Mirana. The number of aristocratic women who refused to eat in order to achieve the desired thinness increased rapidly. There were people who were unable to cope with hunger. This affected their health, and the corset itself also caused pain. And the main character will have to prevent this nightmare for the sake of the entire female population of their capital. In an instant, this couple became best friends. One would think that they had known each other since childhood. Well, it was time to intervene and put an end to such a fruitful union of two greedy madams. Since Jaina wanted to expose Cassel and Mirana for their vile betrayal, but her fiancé behaved unpredictably, the Marquise began to think in the direction of Heifer's fiancé. Now she doesn't have to be in the role of that unfortunate friend. Now it will be incredibly fun. There were 15 days left before the Imperial Ball. Miss Mirana hadn't even made her debut yet, and her room was littered with gifts. She has already become so popular that the maids are tired of sorting her countless boxes of gifts. And all thanks to the indescribable beauty of the simpleton, she was clearly not deprived, so everyone went crazy. The maids did not stop discussing the success of young Miss Vito, although they did not particularly like her. I wonder who the girl inherited such gorgeous silver hair from. They are so rare. Her mother, Len, was not the same outstanding beauty as her daughter before. Moran's past was not of interest to the Marquise. However, now it was necessary to find out everything. It was about Baroness Vito. The maids noticed the Marchioness. Jaina excitedly asked what the maid knew about a certain Len, Miss Vito's mother. It's not that the maid knew. She just heard something from Jaina's mother. While she was still alive, the Marquise Belchat communicated with Baroness Vito. Dad didn't mention it. But their mothers were not close, only acquaintances. Communication between families always took place through their fathers, but mothers also communicated with each other. Attached to the beautiful box was a letter with a stamp. It was probably from red-haired Aiden. He invites you to become his partner at the ball. After all, gifts and letters at such times mean an invitation to dance according to the etiquette of their society. Lily heard that Marana's partner would be Kiesel, and now Aiden. How quickly everything changes. In the past, Prince Kama became Miss Lyre's partner, but the lady herself kept the candidate for the role of her partner a secret. Unless, of course, the girl is refused, Lily immediately perked up. But who would dare refuse her beautiful mistress? By the way, the maid brought a gift for her mistress from Crown Prince Cam with a letter. The heroine was surprised. The gift was from Cassel. She had never received them from her fiancé before. The impression was interrupted by another court servant. Preparations completed, Jaina could meet her father. Milady asked me to take her gift to her bedroom. She would open it a little later. In this reality, Cassel is becoming more and more imbued with the main character. It is obvious that she would have been happy before, but not now. After which the girl timidly entered her father's office and offered to become her ball partner. Of course, if the father did not decide to go to the imperial ball in proud and respectable solitude. The Marquis of Belchat beamed. He had always dreamed of entering the ballroom of the royal palace, holding his daughter on his arm. The commander-in-chief of the imperial army, the legendary and former commander, who knew no mercy for the threat to his kingdom, was so touchingly touched by his daughter. Why didn't her dad tell her anything about this? But the young lady herself stated that she saw only Cassel as her partner. Unfortunately, that was the case, even if the daughter doesn't say that the young man refused to become her partner. Out of nowhere, the father took out his sword and pulled it out of its sheath. Not at all. The miss just asked Marana to accompany him. If one day the crown prince refused to become a partner for his daughter, let her inform him that her father's sword was shining at the ready. Yes, regardless of the circumstances, her prince will stand guard at the event. Jaina nodded. During national celebrations, official servants and volunteers were recruited to serve as protectors. If there were not enough volunteers, then the missing personnel were selected at random, but the amount of payment was very large, so all the places were usually taken. But the Marquise would like to recommend Aiden Laporte for this role. The guy didn't show his best performance at the tournament, so the girl is looking forward to seeing his development. Miss is sure that next year he will become a worthy knight, and the holiday will be a great experience. The father began to choose a place where to put Aiden. The ballroom is on the first floor. The young man can be placed on the third so that it is not too burdensome. The daughter is so attentive. Her dad is proud of her, but in reality, her motives were far from noble. The Marquis of Belchat erased one name from the list and wrote the name of Aiden Laporte. The girl will go to her room. She thanked her father and hugged her. The father was a little upset when the Marquise left his office, but did not stop her, because he still had a lot of work to do. The Marquis said that he was not tired at all and was fine, but this was not true. He would definitely blame himself for shirking if the lady had stayed. Before opening the bedroom door, Jaina found dozens of invitation letters on the table. One of them had Lord Brian's name on it. The girl was holding invitations from Lord Brian in her hand, but her father would not go. He was up to his neck in work. He had no time for racing. Lord Brian is the fiancé of Lady Heifer Ray. The main character simply cannot miss this opportunity. Jaina led on true delight. Maybe the young Marquise could go to the races instead of her father. That's what she wanted. Well, since the young lady wants it that way, the father is not against it at all. He still has absolutely no time for such entertainment. Anna brought the lady her favorite tea. Today, Marana went to the Heifer estate again. They get along great. Marana spends every day there. They are perfect for each other, and this had to be destroyed. Heifer found the source of her inspiration in Mirana. It was her only muse that she had the opportunity to meet. Heifer also always took the side of her model. Being a muse for the designer is an honor in itself. Noble ladies went crazy over her outfits, dreamed of being as beautiful, and Heifer created even more beautiful images. The words that the young designer would make Mirana the flower of society were completely justified. The girl beamed. However, her appearance in a corset shocked all the local ladies at first. There was disapproval in her direction. Behind the negative outcries were the followers of Princess Rosalia, because only harm lies in such fashion. At one time it was Louise Silver's mother, Princess Rosalia, who eradicated this fashion for ill-fated corsets. Be that as it may, the criticism soon faded away, and ultimately the discontent was extinguished by blind faith in the trendiness of Mirana's images. The girls again tightened the terrible grip of corsets. Again a wave of fainting and oxygen starvation swept through, so Mirana introduced a killer trend. Miss Jaina will have to go to the second dress fitting for the imperial ball alone. Has the liar really refused the dress of Ceylon herself? Mirana will wear the dress that the newly minted designer Heifer will prepare for her. A very risky move. Not one of her designs has yet taken off. But in fact, Mirana made the right bet, so Lord Brian turned out to be very useful. It was he who should interfere and drive a wedge between these two. Lord Luke Brian, he owns a hippodrome and is Heifer's announced fiancé. The Lord also occupies a high position in society and has fabulous capital. The Marquise had already formed a completely coherent and easy-to-execute plan in her head. All that remained was to carry it out. An enviable status groom, with an indecently large fortune, with an eminent and noble surname, the usual story of a visiting commoner trying to make her way in society. In the past, Luke was a rabid fan of Mirana, as was the red-haired Aiden, who killed Anna in front of the main character. Heifer and Luke unconditionally followed their white blood angel. The minions had their own interests and benefits from the fall of the Marchioness. In the case of Miss Heifer, the success of working with Mirana became the key to her well-being. The designer became addicted to the taste of fame and money and decided to also denigrate Jaina in the past in order to elevate her muse. It was for this purpose that she spread slander the lower the main character fell. The higher her Mirana rose, and with it the glory of her brand. And when in the past the main character visited Heifer's signature salon, Ray brazenly replied that she did not sell her outfits to every visitor who came in. If Heifer dares to dress up a lady with such a damaged reputation, he will only tarnish his pride. Jaina was at the top of the social circle because of the surname. The two vile creatures simply reveled in watching the Marquise fall. Luke Brian distinguished himself even more. He began to spread shameful rumors about the poor heroine among the male half of the city. This time, all the cowardly and envious minions will not even have time to emerge from their holes. They will be too busy whitening their reputations. The races will take place in 2 days. The girl asked to give the bottle to Ellie so that she could pour the contents onto Mirana's dress. The relationship between Ellie and Mirana is still neutral. Personal conversations never take place. The scoundrel distances himself from her maid. The maid examined the transparent bottle and its contents with interest. She did not know what was inside. Anna reported that Mirana had never shared any special information or confidential plans with her personal maid. It's just that the distrustful reptile will not open up to the new maid we need to create a situation in which she will trust Ellie more. Anna reminded her mistress about the gift delivered for her from Mr. Cam. A beautiful box with a letter was already waiting for her. And now a gift from the groom. Now the prince is not running after Mirana, but in the girl's eyes he will forever remain such a despicable traitor. So Jaina refused any meetings with him. Anna did not understand why the lady did not open the gift from him. If the owner is shy, Anna can open it, but the fact is that before he gave gifts only to Mirana. The main character decided to open the box with her gift for the sake of decency and her maid. She was worried about her and had no idea what was going on in the Marquise's soul. There was a scarf inside. It was necessary to read the contents of the letter. Jaina, dear to his heart, was asked to forgive and accept the scarf that he had sewn himself for her. Kaisel also asked the girl to go to the imperial ball with him. Kama thinks that he offended her in some way. He is infinitely sorry to realize this and needs to correct it. Jaina did not expect such an impulse. Kaisel is really very worried. The young man wrote a very touching and deep letter for her. This has never happened before. He didn't even dedicate such letters to Mirana, but the Marquise already knows the value of his feelings. Now it all looks incredibly touching and better than any confession, but just as in the past, all this disappeared with a snap of Mirana's fingers. The young man considered it wrong to atone for guilt with money and made a gift with his own hands. Anna squealed with delight. The young man embroidered this scarf himself, and it also had Jaina and Cassel embroidered with a heart. How nice of Prince Cam. Where has it ever been seen for a man to embroider handkerchiefs for his lady himself? This phrase was from their childhood. Then they wrote it in the sand. Then the heroine naively believed that they would get married. Preserve so much awe and warmth from childhood, so that later, simply on the orders of another person, plunge a blade into her heart in a figurative and literal sense. How despicable his gaze was, how sincerely he wanted Jaina dead, but she still couldn't hate him. Breathing in a spiral of frustration, the girl asked to put the scarf in the closet out of sight. "You can't appear in society with such a shameless scarf." The maid puts the napkin away to the white lily. Jaina wrote a letter back. She already has a partner for the ball, and she will go with him. She is grateful for the gift. The answer is very short, but it is permissible since they are engaged. But it is too rude, considering such a gift. Anna doesn't know what happened there, but men don't sit embroidering scarves. The maid has no idea what she's talking about. Prince Castle loves her so much. The heroine could no longer stand it. People do not rejoice at the death of those they love. The main character had to pretend that everything was fine. One day she would definitely tell her everything. 2 days later, the heroine and Mirana went to the hippodrome to carry out the main character's plan. Mirana was amazing, like a porcelain doll. Her dress was being finalized. Heifer said that it would be a real masterpiece. Jaina couldn't wait to see it. The white-haired snake teased Jaina. Her dress will be simply a masterpiece. Heifer Ray is so invested in it. The main character has already seen it. Mirana was right. In the past, this very dress created a real sensation. Jaina only asked out of politeness and etiquette to tell about the new dress, although she had known its design for a long time. But if you ruin the relationship between the two scoundrels, will Mirana get her dress for the ball? Upon arrival at the hippodrome, the girls were escorted to the noble entrance. Miss Belshade was invited to the seats for special guests. Since this was one of the gambling houses, the crowd went wild. People here received huge amounts of money for betting. Therefore, the owner of the hippodrome is one of the richest people in the capital, and his taxes to the treasury are also high. Mirana wanted to place a bet. Jaina also decided to make hers, since they had already visited the hippodrome. A beautiful hall for noble people differs from the atmosphere reigning in the stands for fans. The race course is often used as entertainment for the aristocracy, a fact that has a huge impact on the rotten lord's role in society. Monsieur Luc was informed of the arrival of Belchate, but he was sure that the Marquise had visited his hippodrome. But in front of him was not the Marquis of Belchat, but his young daughter Jaina Luc greeted his guest. The aristocracy now rarely pleases Luc with its presence. Jaina is honored to meet the Count. The Marchioness came here on behalf of her father, and the young lady in the heavenly dress is Miss Mirana Vito. They took her under their wing and are taking care of the charming one. The interior of the waiting room for the aristocracy was very richly decorated. Everything screamed about his financial success. The young Marquise continued to praise Mirana to Count Brian, although he did not need this at all. Jaina told Miss Vito to also greet the owner of the racetrack. The connection with him is very significant in society. The scoundrel used her entire arsenal of sweetness. The stupid Count was fascinated by her instantly and completely. A well-known beauty, what an honor. The main character came here for two things: in order to reveal Mirana's true ugliness, and for this, she must first sow rumors about the Count's betrayal with her. And the second stage is to separate the bastards, preventing them from forming a dirty coalition against Jaina. Well, there won't be any problems with the first point. The Count was a real freak. Heifer didn't even think about honor. He bathed in his attention a guest from the southern village. The outcome of the second act is not yet clear. If the designer is taken away from her fiancé, the likelihood of their discord will increase, but she is greedy and values the scoundrel as a source of her income. Brian no longer had any idea what he was saying to his angel. His mind was eclipsed by her beauty. His reputation was already suffering. The Marquise thought about what she should do if Mirana herself began to give in, but the girl also seduced the Count. Count Luc himself offered Mirana a seat, gallantly moving the chair in front of her. She can safely tell him any inconvenience. Luc Brian couldn't stop admiring his guest, as if an angel had fallen from heaven right onto his hippodrome. Admiring exclamations from men rained down from all sides. Marana worked hard on her fame. At first, the girl thought that a crowd of young aristocrats greeted the girls in the best manners, but very soon it turned into a booth. Because of this, the main character became invisible, like a shadow, which can be very useful in the case of revenge. But the lady still couldn't get rid of the Earl of Arma. He worked on his project for a long time, but the Marquis could not devote his time to him. Arma was a real impudent man. He needed the lady to convey a message for her father, or let the Marquis make an official meeting because Arma needs it, so let the girl do it for him. Arma was completely ignorant and assertive. He puts a lot of pressure on the girl, wanting to get what he wants. Luke interrupted the arrogant young man. Seeing that the heroine was in trouble, the Count began to call everyone present and talk about the riders. From the outside, it may seem that he has a sense of nobility and is pursuing good goals, but in the past he was the one who came up with dirty rumors. Miss Vito watched everything with enthusiasm. Everything was new to her. The main character was already practically dozing. Marana was just about to place her bet with Miss Jaina, so they needed to read the manual. On the back of the brochure was information about the featured riders and their noble mounts. Jaina couldn't find a stallion named Black Bolt on the list. Wouldn't he be performing? Luke was surprised at her knowledge. But this horse is the most famous horse in the entire empire. How can you not know him? Living in the capital, Lady Belchate is really right. Black Bolt was Brian's personal horse, a stallion of incredible beauty and stature. He was famous for his incredible strength and speed compared to others. This black stallion is so talented that he cannot even stand next to the others, because then the winner will be obvious, and the excitement from betting will disappear. And Miss Belchate so wanted to see this legendary horse. Then Brian is ready to show him in person after the young Miss competition. Jaina begged Marana to go with her, because without her presence, everything would have no meaning. Fortunately for the main character, the white-haired trash quickly agreed, and it was finally time to place bets. In the carpenter's stable, there were noble and majestic stallions. Each of them was admired and could become a winner in the race. Marana was confused about who she should bet on then. All the horses are simply magnificent, and their riders are real professionals. Most likely, the winner of the race will be number 3. Lord Nutella from the Institute for Magic Research charged this number for good luck. Is the Lord really a wizard? And so it was. This mysterious man in a robe is the very Lord of Nutella. Many have already heard about him. Before the heroine returned in time, the entire capital of the empire was in an uproar over the inflated budget of the Institute of Magical Research. Marana asked if there was a real wizard among the spectators. Would there be a risk of rigging the results of the race? But Count Brian assured that such a beautiful lady should not worry about this. The owner of the hippodrome naturally provided for everything. Luke explained that since the magic dome around the barrier was activated, it blocked any magic within it. Therefore, the integrity of the race is guaranteed by Lord Luke. A magical barrier of this magnitude requires an enormous amount of money. Rumors do not lie. Marana asked what the Marquise would bet on. She herself would bet on horses numbered 3, 8, and 9. When it comes to security and increased income, splitting investments is a good solution. The young Marquise Belchate put everything on stallion number 1. The lady is not here for the sake of betting anyway. Jaina waited until it was all over so she could do the really important things. The race began. The stands roared furiously, urging the beautiful horses to rush faster than the wind. The race was watched by a huge number of excited men. They shouted the names of their stallions from the stands. The leaders of the race were horses numbered 3 and 8. Beautiful horses were neck and neck. Despite a confident lead throughout the race, it was Jaina's stallion number 1 who crossed the finish line first. True, the Marquise did not expect such an outcome at all. She simply named this figure because the girl pursued other goals. Luke noted that the Marquise is good at forecasts, and now you can go to the stables and look at the legendary Black Bolt. Jaina has also become rich. A wonderful day. Now you need to cheer up. Everything should go smoothly and according to plan, but caution will not hurt. Lying on the stone floor right on the street was that same wizard in a robe named Lord Nutella. The famous metropolitan wizard looked very sad and lamented his loss. The young Marquise only knew that he was a famous wizard, but she did not think at all that he was addicted to gambling and wasted all his money on it. Lord Brian found the famous Black Thunder during his trip to Barcelona, and the stallion immediately won his heart. The legendary horse was much more active than other horses. Even while still a foal, the owner of the hippodrome never made a mistake about him. Mirana asked if there were any tricks for choosing a good horse. The Lord was very flattered by the girl's interest. Luke Bryan offered to teach Mirana horse riding to match and give her a white mare to match the lady herself. No matter how well Mirana gets along with Lord, given her position and status, he will not save her, but let her think otherwise. Jaina could barely contain her smile, two hypocrites trying to appear much better than they really were. Doesn't Miss Vito prefer cuter animals? Mirana lived in a village in the mountains for a long time and only encountered pets. A remote village, so this is where such purity and innocence comes from, which is not inherent in ordinary noble secular ladies. The Count looked at the Marquise and realized that he had allowed himself too much purity and innocence were not even in the basic inclinations of the white-haired brat. There is no point in discussing such things in the presence of a noble lady in the capital. The Count risked his reputation and immediately apologized. Since Luke was no longer watching his expressions, Mirana definitely coped with her task. He is completely immersed in her. During this period, the main character knew little about animals, but when looking at Black Bolt, it was difficult not to appreciate the value of the animal. Mirana wanted to take a closer look at the horse. Brian didn't mind. Black Bolt was very smart and was in the pen, so he couldn't harm young Miss Vito. The groom proudly stroked the noble steed, the color of the dead of night, a truly stunning creature. Mirana timidly promised to be careful with such a beautiful stallion. She couldn't help but touch him after being here. As soon as the scoundrel approached the noble horse, he immediately became wary. He felt her rotten soul in addition. Jaina added a certain scent to her dress. The calm and noble horse immediately reared up, and genuine fear for her life sparkled in Mirana's eyes. Black thunder pierced the enclosure with his powerful hooves. Lord Luke Bryan immediately covered the girl with himself. If not for him, then the trough of her horse would have split her skull. The groom immediately began to calm the handsome black man, which came over such a calm and noble stallion. Jaina asked if Mirana was okay. The girl was scared, but was unharmed, but Lord Luke got it from his horse. The Lord assured that everything was fine. He got off lightly, and Black Thunder behaved like this for the first time in all this time. Nothing terrible happened. But the scoundrel could neither take advantage of the opportunity nor attract everyone's attention to herself. She began to squeeze out tears. Mirana adored drama, adored attention and pity. This was her favorite technique. Poor Count Brian could no longer control himself at all. He was afraid for his angel and feared for her life. Luke looked at her, not hiding his concern for her servants, hurried from all sides and found their master taking unacceptable care of the lady. This awkward situation ended. Brian did not expect his noble stallion to react this way. It was his fault. Luke takes full responsibility, apparently. He will have to say goodbye to the horse and punish the person who looked after him improperly. Since the horse attacked the scoundrel absolutely justifiably and fulfilled the desire of many who saw the light, he needs to be rescued. Mirana asked not to do this, because she was the one who mindlessly dragged herself to pet Lord Brian's horse. Black Bolt and the groom did nothing wrong at all. The lady asks to have mercy on them for her own sake. Of course, it was clear that Mirana would say so. Her task was to seem like a kind-hearted and sympathetic lady, and everyone fell for it. How pure and kind the noble miss is to mere mortals, stands up for ordinary people. But there was no terrible reason to be angry. Mirana played out to the end. Lord Brian suffered, and for her this was supposedly an insignificant incident. She played too much. Other aristocrats would have ordered both the horse and the groom to be punished immediately, but Miss Vito is as pure as she is beautiful. The Lord finally didn't think about what he was saying. Luke praised Mirana while humiliating the other ladies, and sooner or later, he would fall down this rabbit hole. Luke Bryan turned out to be a much easier target than the main character expected. And Jaina didn't expect such agility and an arsenal of flirtatiousness from Mirana. She also did a good job. A few days later, the news that Lord Luke Bryan and Miss Heifer Ray had broken off their engagement spread throughout the area. Everything was going just amazing. Jaina was happy. Maids whispered about it on every corner. A perfectly worked-out plan. A young aristocratic couple broke up because of Miss Mirana. How could you steal the groom from your own friend? But she simply praised this village simpleton. Another maid noted that we were talking about one of the richest people in the capitals, so friendship would no longer help the greedy provincials. They all want to quickly break through from rags to riches. First, the scoundrel received the patronage of the Marquis of Belchat, then she will grab Brian's title. Rumors spread so quickly that even the Marquise was impressed people are the most terrible weapon. Literally at every step, they repeated that a commoner from a nondescript province was making her way. For secular society and ordinary residents of the capital, this was absolutely unacceptable and shameful. Jaina was jubilant. Everything turned out to be not so difficult, but so pleasant. And this was only the beginning of her revenge. Then Anna appeared and ordered the girls not to shirk their work, chilling in the garden, and to immediately begin their duties around the house. The maid asked her mistress not to lie on the cold grass, but at least to put a rug down so as not to catch a cold. Anna believes that her mistress already knows that rumors about Miss Vito and Lord Brian have already spread beyond the boundaries of their estate. The Marchioness, as always, is accurate and diligent. Perhaps by the time of the imperial ball, every aristocrat will know who Mirana is. Then she will not dare to take a step into secular society. She will have to forget about revenge. The maid begged the girl to get up from the ground, because her beautiful dress could also be damaged and stained. The main character was absorbed in her success if her father knew what kind of war she was now waging to save their lives. Despite the history with Cassel in the past, Mirana did not suffer from the rumors then, since the Marchioness kept them in check. The Marquise remembered her feelings when she had to restrain the oppression of the aristocratic nobility so that they would not peck Mirana. The decoction in the bottle worked perfectly. Black Bolt really went berserk, and Brian couldn't help but show off in front of the pathetic liar and heroically rushed to her defense. Of course, that day, the attack of the noble stallion was not an accident. Ellie then poured a bullfighter drug onto her dress, which stimulates the aggression of bulls. The drug has no effect on people, but animals feel it instantly and reliably. Ellie accomplished her mission perfectly and managed to prepare everything in time before the trip to the hippodrome. The maid did not even arouse any suspicion from her mistress, who was on alert all the time. The beginning of the tandem of two cowardly hyenas was made, and a very thorough one. And then everything was simple. Lord Brian immediately fell in love with Mirana, and he just needed to make sure that their meeting would not be the last. The next day, the Marquise and Mirana went to his mansion to thank him. The Lord was glad to see the scoundrel. The ladies shouldn't have come all this way for someone who did what he should have done, but the ladies are very grateful to him. Miss Vito also thanked the noble lord for her salvation and compassion for Black Bolt. Mirana then drank too much tea and decided to leave for a while. This was the very chance for the Marquise. Perhaps it is presumptuous of Jaina to say such a thing. There is nothing good in throwing himself between two young ladies. Mirana also likes him. The girl left because she was embarrassed by him. This is the first time she has heard her friend talk about a man like that, because the Lord heroically saved her. Mirana immediately returned to the living room and asked if everything was okay with the others. She tried not to linger. The main character saw that the stupid and narcissistic Lord took the bait. It was written on his face. Mirana continued to chirp something to the Count about his wonderful hippodrome, but Luke no longer heard her. Jaina noted that time flies very quickly. The Lord volunteered to escort the beautiful ladies to their carriage. When the loving Lord saw off the young ladies, his face was already glowing with the decision he had made, which would help destroy his beloved, the stupid fool. So Count Luke Brian decided to imagine his fate and life path differently, which was discussed throughout the following days. And 2 days later, a general fuss began. All the maids were simply buzzing and discussing what had happened. Lily told her mistress in every detail what had happened, and added that no one approved of it. Jaina looked surprised. What shamelessness, because according to numerous rumors, the aristocrat only yesterday broke off his engagement to Heifer Ray. Then Lord Brian, without any hesitation, sent Miss Vito a huge number of gifts. This was a factual and open recognition of his feelings. The Lord turned out to be much more obsessive than expected, persistent and private courtship. It was indecent and shameful even for his vile nature. Since the imperial ball was an event involving the royal family and all the nobility, it took a lot of time to prepare. The maid suggested that the main event of the ball would be Miss Jaina, not Princess Halis. The maid had never seen such powder before. It was a new product that was purchased before it was launched on sale. Jaina was the most beautiful girl in the empire until the scoundrel appeared, for whom the Marquise sacrificed everything. The maids nodded approvingly. They admired their mistress. The Marquise was simply beautiful. Lady Jaina will shine brighter than anyone else at the imperial ball. The marquise really was dazzling and felt the same way. The young miss thanked her diligent maids. It was all their merit. Jaina was immensely grateful to them. The maids were sincerely happy for their mistress, and for the fact that they were lucky enough to serve her. The main character blushed. She had never heard so many pleasant things in her life. It was nice. But Mirana will still be the most beautiful at the imperial ball. The maids looked at each other in the light of recent events. The reptile was no longer held in high esteem. The maids froze. People began to see her true ugliness behind her pretty appearance, and her lies and flattery no longer worked. Milady is still the best for her maids, but Mirana is truly beautiful, and with her face, she drove her friend's fiancé crazy. And yet this morning, Earl Ray went to the head of the family. How big was Heifer Ray's heart, or the despair of his situation? Another maid called out to the chatterbox, who immediately apologized for her long tongue and took her leave. In truth, Anna also wondered what pathetic Heifer Ray was thinking about. She was so humiliated, but she didn't seem to see it. Everything was simple. Even despite the fact of betrayal and general humiliation, the greed of the aspiring designer outweighed all this. Mirana will even be at the ball in a dress from Heifer, so young Ray, her possible success, overshadowed her sense of self-worth. Everyone knew that Heifer's father was experiencing financial difficulties, so marrying Brian would solve his problems. I wonder if they can call Miss Vito to get revenge on her for Heifer and the lost money. Maybe they will make her a nasty dress so that you fail at the ball. This story was already spreading through local boutiques and streets. Ceylon was also already aware, and Jaina could not miss this chance. Thus, Jaina prevented the scoundrel from making the right impression on her first debut. Even if the dress from Heifer on Mirana is brilliant, it will not be visible behind the veil of a dirty reputation. An important advantage of the flower of society is that it is he who sets the current fashion. The marquise is obliged to create a new trend. It would be great to get good materials from a past life. We need to somehow find a new designer. Jaina asked how the competition for a clothing designer and guild attorney was going. There were a lot of candidates after a tea party with Lady Louise. The marquise asked the guild to hold a competition for herself personally on behalf of the new sponsor. If someone could pass it, it would already be a success, which would also benefit the main character. Jaina picked up a beautiful handkerchief with a name embroidered on it from her desk, took a deep breath. Big day. Anna hurried her young mistress. It was already time for my lady to go down to the Marquis of Belchat. The beloved father was already waiting for his beloved daughter for their first joint ball, and was a little worried. Jaina gracefully floated into the corridor to her father. She was wearing a new extraordinary emerald dress. It suited the girl perfectly. Her father froze. The Marquis of Belchat put his hand on his daughter's head. She was so charming and so similar to her mother. This was the best and most pleasant compliment that could have been given. How much his daughter had grown. Having pressed his father's feelings, the Marquis took his daughter by the arm, and the Belchat family clan went towards their carriage. The carriage set off along the road. Today, everyone was traveling in the same direction towards the royal palace. Just recently, Jaina was crying because she was afraid of the dark, and today he is leading her arm in arm to the ball so grown up. Speaking of mom, does her father know Miss Vito's mom, the Baroness? Jaina hasn't heard anything about her. The girl was very interested and curious about what kind of person she was and what she did. What Mirana's mother looked like. Because her daughter became a real beauty, she probably inherited this from her mother. What kind of relationship they have between the Baroness and Mirana is so important in the life of every girl. Little was known about Mirana's mother, but the Marquis was very friendly with Baron Vito and could not help but know his wife. In the past, Baroness Vito was a young aristocrat who admired knights, so it is obvious that her choice fell on a skilled and outstanding warrior. Having matured, the lady married Baron Vito, who then saved the Marquis of Belchat and became a war hero. After the wedding, the young newlyweds moved to the Southern Valley, where Miss Mirana was born, who in the future will kill the entire family of the Marquis. Until the moment of Jaina's execution, this creature said that she hated her from the very beginning. It is possible that the answer lies in her mysterious history. The heroine felt that there was something more behind it. The Marchioness herself also met Baroness Vito when she was little. Most likely she doesn't remember. And why shouldn't she ask Mirana herself about her mother? The girl was still very young. She was only 2 or 3 years old when she saw Mirana's mother. Of course, Jaina did not remember her at all. The Marquise listened to her father with interest. It was very strange that even he knew only a little. After all, the Baroness lived half her life without leaving any trace, as if on purpose. The main character understood that her father really didn't know anything more about Mirana's mother. He wasn't lying. Jaina thanked her father for agreeing to become her partner. She felt very calm next to him. The weather was getting hotter. Jaina was not particularly sensitive to temperature, but her father was feeling a little hot in his uniform. A drop of sweat ran down the Marquise's face, although she was wearing a fairly light summer dress. While her father was wearing a heavy and dense uniform, the poor Marquis, he was very uncomfortable. The caring daughter handed her handkerchief to her out of breath, father, because she saw that the Marquis was already covered in sweat. The handkerchief would not need to be returned. Jaina had made it especially for her father. The Marquis was touched. He should be wiping away his tears, not his sweat. One of the Marquis's wishes was to receive a hand-embroidered scarf from his beloved daughter before he died. The Marquis could not say anything, since Kaisel was the only one who could give and receive such scarves. In the past, the lady was immature and vulnerable. Now she is doing everything right and will do anything for her father. Her always gloomy father became more and more open and radiant about how pleasant and simple it was to get close to him. But it was great that the Marquise was the only one who saw his gentleness, since he was, after all, the commander-in-chief of the army. How the girl missed such warm moments since childhood, an incredible feeling. The Marquise was truly happy and shook her head. She really wasn't sleeping. Everything was real. In front of her is her beloved and loving father. How lucky she is she will never allow anyone to take this away from her. The best father in the world, caring and strong, in addition to the fact that he never forgets about his daughter. He does not forget about his empire. An amazing combination of strength of character, willpower, and gentleness towards her daughter. The commander-in-chief of the army has always been distinguished by his cold judgment, steely character, and steadfastness. And now, an incredibly touching and sweet man sat in front of the main character, wiping away tears from his daughter's gift. The city was empty. All the residents flocked to the center of the capital, to the royal palace. No one could miss such an event. Work in the military department left its mark. The Marquise was always worried about him. Too much concern for the empire. But all these changes were for the sake of the first prince, even though the emperor said that he was not worth it, because the doctor said that the prince would not survive this year. Jaina was very upset for the first prince. Not only does he live in constant fear, but his father was also unlucky. He simply gave up on the poor fellow and does not fight for him.